Uhuru! How y'all like it? I'm not talking about that vegan lasagna. I know y'all like that. How y'all like this convention? That's what I'm talking about. All right. Yeah, so it's great to see everybody here. It's what we've been able to demonstrate, not simply the work of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, but the work of the Uhuru Movement overall. At lunch, you were all able to go see the work of the African People's Education and Defense Fund, the Black Power Blueprint, African Independence Workforce Program, all sorts of amazing anti-colonial projects that are taking place. We talking about power being placed back into the hands of the African community. You know, so much of the trajectory that the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement is on was forecast almost 50 years ago, 1977 by Chairman Omali Yeshitela in his Tactics and Strategies pamphlet. That's another pamphlet that you can see. You know, some people will talk about, like, you know, if you ran out into the street, was going around to the street, and then I say, hey, you know, don't run out into the street. You might get hit. And then you run out to the street, you get hit. You say, man, that was prophetic. Was it prophetic? That wasn't prophetic. That was scientific. That was scientific. That's important to understand. What you're seeing right here with African internationalism is a science. It's a science of society. Explains the place of African people in the world as it is today, and what we need to do to change the world. So that's what that's what this is, and you all are playing an active role in it. So now what we want to do is want to have a little bit of culture. I want to introduce Mestre Dennis Newsom and his Osmalandro de Mestre Toro Capoeira studio in Southeast San Diego. Mestre Dennis Newsom has a long relationship in service and in camaraderie with the Uhuru movement, going back to his days in Oakland, but also to his time in San Diego, in which people from his Capoeira studio have served actually as security for Chairman when Chairman came down to San Diego State and things of that sort. So our theme is deepening the counteroffensive, right? Completing the Black Power movement. This time we will win. And what African internationalism has done is it's given shape to an anti-colonial struggle of African people ever since the very first colonizers stepped his literally dirty foot on the soil of Africa, 600 some odd. So we've given, so it's a part of that struggle has been Capoeira, right? And so when we talk about this idea of deepening the counteroffensive, right, we understanding the sense that we defend as we attack, right? Defending as we attack. And that idea, defense and attack at the same time, is central to Capoeira, which is why you've probably seen the main flyer we have with people doing Capoeira on the flyer. So it's in that sense that we like to introduce revolutionary culture, the revolutionary culture, the African martial art of Capoeira. So we can now pass the Mestre Dennis Newsom and Osman Landros to Mestre Toro.
Okay, how you doing?
How you doing? Uhuru.
So I'm Mestre Preto Velho. That's my nome de guerra, name of war. It's named after a herbologist in slavery there. He was from West Africa, the Angola, Congo region. He's like, was Dr. Sebi of their time period. Anyway, he figured out, he's the first one to figure out the plants in Brazil and use it for medicine. I'm going to do Capoeira. Capoeira developed in Brazil in 3 separate locations simultaneously. Rio de Janeiro, Bahia, and Pernambuco. Those 3 locations. So my style is Capoeira Angola de Sabento Grande. Like karate got different styles and Kung Fu styles, same in Capoeira. So the idea is very different from the Asian martial arts. We don't have a stance. Instead, we're more advanced. We have a movement, and that movement is named after the Angola queen Njinga. The movement is called Jinga. So instead of, it's like a stance with no stance. I'm gonna show some quick movement, like if somebody try to grab you. And then Professor Balanço and them, they're gonna play a little capoeira for you. Now you watching the guy grab you. And now he's done. Quick. The movement basic is from here to Jinga. Everything comes from the Jinga. Now we're going to play a little capoeira for you. All right, so this is some capoeira for you. Capoeira Angola de Sapimento Grande. I'm Mestre Preto Velho, and my maestro is Grandmaster Mestre Toro. See you guys.
Uhuru, comrades. Glad everybody's back and full and happy. That was amazing. And now, you know, you always get a little pre-dessert, then you get the main meal. And now I'm here to bring you our own Chairman Omali Yeshitela. President, Chairman, he is the leadership of leaderships of the African People's Socialist Party and African International. Chairman, it's all yours.
Thank you. Uhuru, I'm going to make a self-criticism. We used to call it crime broke. Anticipating, contradictions that I have with this presentation, but I think it's extremely important for us to be here. This convention, as we said, is extremely important. We're talking about deepening the counteroffensive. And as you know, the US government attacked our revolutionary movement. They attacked the African revolution as it represents itself from the work that's being done by the African People's Socialist Party and the movement. We want to be clear about that. One of the things we always said, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. We understood the connection that was here. And for the first time in more than 100 years, the African revolution has developed the capability of speaking with one voice. So it is not just a question of talking about freedom in Kenya, of freedom in Ghana, of freedom in St. Louis, of freedom in some other place that we've been forcibly dispersed. The fact is that we have concluded we are one Africa, one nation of people. And that we also came to understand a long time ago that the struggle of African people had run into its limitations when fought within the colonial borders that have been imposed on us. There is not going to be any way to have a Kenyan revolution that can conclude in revolutionary freedom for our people in Kenya. It would be left in a sea of neo-colonial domination. That's what we found all around the world. So the African revolution is one revolution functioning on many different fronts. And so when we talk about what we do in the United States, we say this is the US front of the African revolution. We build party movement in Kenya. It's the Kenyan front of the African revolution. The same thing is true in Jamaica and Haiti and other places where we're located. These are fronts of the overall African revolution. It's really important for us to understand that, otherwise they continue to do to us what they've done for the last several hundred years, where they come in, they take control of our lives, they take control of our people, our territories and things like that, and impose new identities on us. They lock us into moments in history where you cannot make progress. And part of what I mean by that is at the moment they can create structures, political, economic, and even ideological structures that would limit what it is that we're doing to a Kenya. We can't see a bigger world. We can't fight for a bigger world. And the fact is that we are fighting an enemy that is global. And it came into existence as a global entity. And I think that's extremely important for us to understand. Europe got defined developed as a consequence of the assault on Africa first of all. Africa first of all. Before then, there was no such thing as the white man. The thing is that there was no such thing as Europe. The concept of Europe is something that was consolidated during the struggle, during the whole attack by what is now known as Europe on African people. Before then, the people we know as Europe identified themselves primarily in relationship to each other. And by that I mean there were Celts, there were Normans, there were Saxons, there were all these people, and they were usually engaged in fights among themselves. And the thing that unified all of them was the assault that they made on Africa, first Africa. And then what began is a process of stealing African wealth, labor. I cannot even say in a meaningful way, comprehensive way, the extent to which value has been stolen from Black people, from Africa in general, in terms of construction of this world order. Comrade Penny Hess mentioned when she spoke a moment ago, that just a study done by this group associated with CARICOM shows how something like $131 trillion in value have been stolen from African people. That's just as it relates to the Caribbean. Yes. $131 trillion, which is more than the gross domestic product of the entire world. In other words, that there is not enough money right now in existence that could pay the amount of value that they've stolen from African people. That's just in the Caribbean. Yeah. This is a part of a single global economy that came into existence. It came into existence attacking Africa. This is the thing that hooked the world up into a single world economy. There was no world economy before then. The world economy was born through in colonial slavery and colonialism as it emerged and developed and articulated itself throughout the entire world. When we say it's a colonial mode of production, we're not simply saying that it's something that simply relates to white people or Black people, et cetera. We're saying the whole world. The entire economy of the world is constructed through this colonial process and maintained through it. That everything that people do on the planet Earth to feed, clothe, and house themselves is a parasitic economy born through parasitism. It requires the theft of the land, labor, and resources of other people for its existence. Can't even function without that. It has to do it in order to exist. But we're not confused. We don't make the distinction. We don't make the mistake of assuming that we say it's a social system that requires parasitism. That is simply a relationship between Black people and white people. Again, it's the world. And white people have this concept of whiteness and white people has come to be a euphemism for colonialism. We say the white man, we're talking about colonialism. When we're talking about the white system, it's colonialism. And it's important to understand that, otherwise you get involved in some kind of subjective thing about white people, white man this, white man that. It's the colonial system. It is parasitic. It sucks the blood of the people. And colonialism came into existence. It was clothed as it is clothed in terms of the colonial masters being white, and they define themselves as white. We didn't do that. Now they don't want to be white anymore. But we didn't do that. That's how they define themselves. It's a statement of their purity. As compared with others around the world. So we're looking at a whole colonial mode of production. And the political line you have is so important because that is the thing that will expose the contradictions for anybody who's capable of seeing it. Otherwise, things get blurred, like you can fight against racism. So I'm fighting against racism. What in the hell does that mean? Fighting against racism, okay, what do you know you want? And I mean this, I don't mean this just rhetorically. If that's what your struggle is about, how do you know when you're victorious? Does there a peace treaty that gets signed any place? Is there a flag that somebody waves and say, I surrender? What is a fight against racism? Racism is simply the ideological foundation of colonial capitalism. Yes. It is the foundation, it's the things and the ideas of people that wins white people to become agents of their own oppression. And of course, that makes them facilitate the colonial domination of African and other people around the world. They believe this claptrap. Yeah. They believe this nonsense about being superior. I hate this concept of we fight against white supremacy. What in the hell is that? What is a white supremacy? We're fighting for colonial, we're fighting to overturn colonial domination of African people. That's what the struggle is about. And it's really important to understand. If you understand that, even can understand also anybody can join in on the struggle against colonialism. I'm not asking anybody to join in on the struggle of whiteness. How do white people join in the struggle against whiteness? Except as an ideological concept. They can fight that. They need to fight that in their own communities. They need to commit what we call national suicide. To unass that whiteness, you understand? And then unite with the vast majority of the people around the world who fight against that whiteness. And that way you become one. You unite with the struggle of the vast majority of the people against colonialism and the colonial mode of production. We have, with this work we're doing today, we have taken this important struggle for a long period of time. We've initiated this. We say we're deepening this counteroffensive to win people to the struggle for democratic rights for Africans and the colonized peoples of the world. The truth is that some of you may have seen that movie a long time ago. Who is this guy? Tom Cruise and Jack, what's the guy's name? Few Good Men. Yeah, Few Good Men. Who said that? Yeah, A Few Good Men, where this court scene where Nicholas is on the witness stand, and he is being interrogated in a very serious way, or cross-examined by Cruz, who is playing the role of a prosecutor for crime in the military. And Cruz kept saying, you know, but I want the truth. I want the truth. And Nicholas responds, you can't handle the truth. And that's the reality that we have for white power. It can't handle the truth. That's why they say, don't teach the truth in history and other kinds of things, you know, like in these schools, increasingly, not just in Florida, as quiet as it's kept, that's spreading throughout the country. Libraries are under assault and things like that. They can't handle the truth. They can't handle democracy. The fact is, this system is born off unfreedom. And this is really important for us to understand. That a system of colonialism, freedom cannot be legal in a system of colonialism. I don't care what they write on a piece of paper. They can write on a piece of paper, they wrote on a piece of paper about freedom during what they were form of slavery in this country. But clearly freedom was illegal. Wasn't freedom illegal? Yeah. They put Nat Turner on trial in 1831, I think it was. What did Nat Turner do? He led a movement, a revolt against slavery. That was illegal. That's why they put him on trial. Freedom is illegal for the colonized, for the enslaved, etc. And that's the contradiction that we're looking at. And that's the contradiction that traps so many of our white liberal friends because they don't get that. But they actually would say, well, we must have done something, right? Why would the police do this to them? Why would they attack them? They must have done something. Because life for them, freedom from them, for white people, as we know them, came at the expense of freedom for Africans and everybody else on the planet Earth. I hope I'm understood. I mean, I know sometimes I'm not clear what I said. This is what that freedom rests on. That freedom rests on the ability to keep this land that they stole from the indigenous people. If they ain't got this land from the indigenous people, they ain't got no freedom. They ain't got no nothing. If they ain't got the resources that was created by slave labor on this land stolen by the indigenous people, they ain't got nothing. They cannot see freedom for the indigenous people. They cannot handle freedom for the indigenous people. That's true of colonized people all around the world. That's why they're freaking out about what's happening in Mali and Nigeria and other places like that. Freedom for African and the colonized people is something that they can't handle. They can't handle the truth. So that's part of what it is that we're looking at, and that's the explanation of why they attack us. The thing is, though, if you have a political economy that revolves around slavery, of colonialism, a superstructure emerges and arrives from that. And by superstructure, we mean the ideas, the ideology. We mean the legal system. All of that comes from this process of colonialism. That's why you will never find any place on earth where there has been slavery and the education of that people on earth promoted freedom. The legal system of that promoted freedom. In fact, there's this concept in this country that says that ownership, that possession is 99% of ownership. How the hell does that work? In other words, if I got it, then 99% of the evidence that is mine. I remember this quote from, I think, Teddy Roosevelt, as he's affectionately referred to by patriots in this country. I think he may have been speaking of the Panama Canal. He may have been speaking of that. He said, it's ours because we stole it fair and square. We stole it fair and square. This is the kind of stuff that gets consolidated as law, as a superstructure. Every school that you go to, they teach that in church in one way or another. Everywhere you go, the superstructure is informed by the nature of the economy, the economic base. Economic base is colonialism, colonial slavery, a colonial mode of production. And that's why this system functions the way it does, and turn teaches what it teaches. Somebody said, well, somehow you have to teach people how to be racist and stuff like that. All you got to do is create these kind of structures and things like this that we live under. Ideas about people and each other born from that relationship, from these structures, etc. And it's taught in every institution. And the enslaved get taught the same thing as the enslaver. Yes. I have the same opinion of myself as the slave owner has of me. The slave owner teaches me about myself as the slave owner teaches himself. This is why we live in a world where Africa's tradition and historically have been objects of history. The white man, the European, the colonizers have been subjects of history. And this is what is so shocking for some of the white people who love us, in quotes, right? Because they have never heard of themselves defined from the perspective of Africans and other colonized people. They're shocked. They're shocked to hear that. Why would you say that about white people? Why would you say that about the colonizers? We love ourselves, and you know you're supposed to love us too. And so if you don't, something wrong with you, right? And that's just the way the whole superstructure reacts and functions in relationship to the colonial mode of production. So I wanted to say that. I wanted to say that the work that we do, the struggle that our people do, that peoples all around the world do, creates value for everybody except us. The colonized do not create value for themselves. And I don't care how the fact that you know some black person with Mercedes-Benz and big cars and a nice house. That's an exception. The reality is that the oppressor, the colonizer, will allow for an individual colonized to be successful. They will allow an individual to be successful. It's the group that they will not allow to be successful. And any individual who's got something on the ball, if you're willing to become successful at the expense of the group, I guarantee you, you can be the next president of the United States. That's right. But you have to be willing for your success to emerge at the expense of the group. That's why you hear, I saw something the other day by this person. I was hoping that he was acting when he did, what was it, Driving with Miss Daisy? Driving Miss Daisy, I was hoping he was acting. Even though I saw him at the Oscar award thing where he went and got Miss Daisy and dragged Miss Daisy's white ass up there to the platform to receive an Oscar. I'm saying he might not be acting. And then I just saw something of him the other day where he was talking about how it's BS that when we talk about circumstances and conditions are responsible for what's happening to black people, and he can show individuals who made it wonderful. He is acting when he's acting as himself. You understand? He played, every role he played has been true to form, who he is. So the fact is that this is how the system will allow you to be successful if you're willing to sell out your people. If you're willing to come to a funeral of a young brother like Mike Brown, who was killed here, if you're willing to come there with your slick hair and your $2,000 suit and you're willing to lead that family in the church, some of whom are behind you in flip-flops and shorts, etc., marching in this funeral thing, if you're willing to be able to stop this young person when he gets up and start telling how pissed off he feels because his cousin, relative of this brother, Mike Brown, was murdered, if you're willing to step up there and say, no, we're not angry at anybody, etc., if you're willing to calm the masses and misdirect this energy and natural opposition to being murdered and brutalized, you can be successful. They'll call you every time somebody's killed, they'll pay you. They'll pay you, they give you a bunch of money, then they'll call you a civil rights lawyer. And they'll call your partner, charlatan, something else. So this is what it is that we're dealing with. And then we have the struggle of our party that has historically been opposed to this. We have to be. This is not a choice that we have. This is a whole new era and period where the crisis of the social system is bursting at the seams. Where it's bursting at the seams internationally. The order that they set up is not working anymore internationally. You got whole new economic institutions trying to emerge to challenge the existing dominating economic order. You've got political entities trying to make themselves relevant in the international political arena. You've got situations inside the United States where I've never seen a period such as this, where political trials are happening all across the terrain. A political trial, whether it's a political trial from January 6th, the damn former president of the United States is facing a trial. And they want to say it ain't got nothing to do with the upcoming 2024 election. But then you got the other group who's talking about putting the existing president, they're talking about impeaching him. Like that ain't got nothing to do with the election either. Then you got the son of the existing president facing trial as well. The political trials are abounding everywhere. Isn't that something? Yeah. Everywhere you look, there's a political trial. And that's what's that is something that's captured the entire landscape. At the same time that's happening, you got people who are trying to break free of this colonial arrangement, whether that's in Venezuela, whether that's in Nicaragua, whether that's in Mali, whether that's in Nigeria, and all these other people trying to break out of it. And then you have the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. We and we in the process just now, you see the real re-emergence of the struggle against colonialism. You see that happening now. They had destroyed that. When they killed Malcolm, when they killed King, when they killed more than 30 members of the Black Panther Party in 1968 alone, when they killed a co-founder of the African People's Socialist Party, when they arrest thousands of people, we don't even know how many people they arrested during the 1960s. So many people were locked up and what have you. And then so much so that the prison, the revolution was put in prison. That's what Attica was. That's what San Quentin, that's what all of those movements that were happening inside, they had arrested their own revolution. And then you got revolutionaries who were in prison, who many of them were upset about why nobody's trying to get me out. Ain't nobody here to get you out. So that was their intent. But now we are rebuilding in a more serious way than I've ever seen before. We said the 60s was dress rehearsal, this is the real deal. And we've learned so much more, so much since the 1960s. And so that's part of what it is that we're doing. We had a whole world tribunal on reparations. Had a whole world tribunal, had an international panel of jurors. Somebody just had a reparations, had a tribunal of some sort. I might have been the anti-genocide tribunal, I don't know what it was called. Not too long, maybe what, a year, 3 or 4 months, a year, something like that. But it wasn't new. We have not only laid the foundation, but the tribunal was not just to expose the colonizers, not just to expose the reparations to the African people, but it was also establishing structures of state power, potential state power. They put us on trial all the time. We're putting them on trial. Yeah. That's what we did when we came here in St. Louis after Ferguson. When the grand jury from St. Louis refused to put this murderer on got this murderer who killed Mike Brown. Everybody knew he killed Mike Brown. And they refused to do it, even after they held any kind of determination that came from the grand jury for months and months and months. We said, hell, we don't have to wait for them. They said that they can't indict. Let's take the same evidence that they use. Take the same damn evidence they use. Take their law, take the same law they use, and have our own grand jury. Let's present this evidence to this grand jury and then see what we come up with. And we came up with, of course, the indictment of the murderer. Yeah. So what's the difference? We found the United States guilty of genocide against African people, 1982. Nobody else would do it, we did it ourselves. So once we've done that, what does it mean now? Why don't we carry it out? This is the instruments of state power that we are fighting for. And the difference in their ability to take me to court and give me life in prison for fighting for freedom of African people, and my ability to take them to court for bombing my house at 5 o'clock in the morning of July of 2022 and committing all these offenses against Black people every day of our lives, is that they got guns. They got guns, they got structures, they got power, etc. And this is what gives them, this is what legitimizes them. It's not based on some righteousness of what they've done. They said they got the guns. The gun said this is what the law is. The gun say that if you don't show up to this hearing that I'm having, I'll come and I'll bomb you, I'll kill your children, I'll take you to prison forever. That's why theirs make a difference. So what that teaches us, though, as we continue to build these instruments of state power, like tribunals, put them on trial. And then what you do is put them on trial. And after you found them guilty, you put the date and the time that this happened. You put what the determination was made. And then you say, well, what can we do about it? Say, well, you can't do anything right now, not what you want to do, unless you got the power to do it. So that tells you what you got to do is get the power to do it. That's why NPDOM has this whole thing. We would teach African people what the constitutional rights are, what to do if the police mess with you. And this is based on the law that they have. Their law says they're not supposed to be able to do this, but most Africans don't know it. That's what their law says. Most Africans don't know that's what their law says because they don't teach it, number one. And number two, it's never mattered what their law said. They just do what the hell they want to do to us. That's just the way it's been. So we teach the masses. We pass out laws, pass out flyers. We pass out things that teach the people that you have a right to remain silent. You have a right not to say anything. You have the Constitution says you have the right to freedom of assembly. You have the right to free speech, etc. So that's in the white people's Constitution. The same white people that send the police to you when they tell you to give me the corner and you don't move. That right is what you have. That confers upon you the right to have freedom of assembly and freedom of speech. So if I got freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, why the hell I got to move? Right. Why I got to move? Right. Yeah. They'll all say I'm supposed to be able to stay here. Why I got to move? Then it becomes clear why you got to move. Because the one who told you to move got a gun. And he's got a place where he can call some more people who got guns. Don't you think that begins to educate masses of the people? But if you have the right, according to them, to be here, and then they come and mess with you anyway, and they do that because they got guns. Yeah. Right. That's the education that the masses get. Just so you don't have to tell people to pick up a gun. You say, the white people say you got this right here. And we do that. And we have demonstrations based on this right that the white people say we're fighting them. They can't handle democracy. They talk about democratic rights. They can't handle it. Here you got a colonizer who's living off the flesh and blood of African people throughout Africa. 14 different countries they control in Africa. Feeds France, built the Eiffel Tower. Africans in Haiti built the Eiffel Tower with resources that they stole from us in Haiti. And then they say when Africans in Mali, when Africans in Nigeria, when Africans rise up, that somehow we're fighting against democracy. What kind of damn democracy are we fighting for? And colonialism is by very very definition anti-democratic act against the people. Only reason it doesn't appear to be that way, because the colonizers got the power.
Right.
They make the determination.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this walk that we just did, looking at the projects that we are working with, is anti-colonial projects that bring the people into active participation in changing their relationship to colonial value, colonial economy, etc. So that's what the tribunal was all about. That's with African people to an understanding of what our relationship is to this power. That's why we're not just involved in empty debates when we say the struggle is not against racism. And we're not trying to get more likes on social media, more views by saying stuff that excites the imagination of people. By saying that, we're saying that your work, your actual practical work, your strategy will be determined by this idea, this understanding of what makes this thing work, what holds it all together. And if in fact you are in the situation you're in because white people don't like you, then fight against racism, make white people like you. That's the thing you do. But if in fact you are in this situation because white people who don't like you got the power over you, then what you got to do is fight to get the power over yourself. So it doesn't matter if white people like you or not. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah. Uhuru.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Uhuru. You know, you think all of a sudden that the white people start loving Chinese? How many demonstrations you seen by Chinese saying, "We shall overcome"? Hands up, don't shoot. You know? People fight for their own power, with their own lives. That's what we have a responsibility to do, and that's why we're under attack right here.
Yeah.
So, and that's what it is that's so important about what it is we do. We have been involved through the African People Social Squad, 50 years of relentless struggle for African people. We have raised the struggle for reparations. We have taken the mystery out of this issue of the white people, because white people are mysterious, you know, because there is no meaningful definition of this relationship. You know, how do white people get to be white? What made white people? All white people white. Are they white? What the hell? I've been lied to. we learned that this whiteness is a political and ideological position that they constructed. And you fighting against that. No, that's why they get away with calling you people of color. What the hell is a people of color? What the hell is a people of color? Please. So, France, there's something like 6 or 7 million white people who call themselves French. And they control 14 different entities that they call states in Africa. They collect something like $500 billion a year, right off the top, from these Africans who they are starving. And the Africans, after they pay the colonial tax to France, they don't just pay a colonial tax to France. The France gets it, puts it in its system, and then the Africans have to pay France to keep the money that they took from us. And then, because obviously, after they take so much money, we've got maybe 25% left for Africa, and then after the neo-colonial petty bourgeois forces take that, then the masses of people may have 5% of their own resources to live off. That's what we stuck with. And so, this is what this struggle we're involved in is about rectifying, this kind of relationship. I don't care if the French like us or not. As much as they've stolen from us, they need to be running like hell to stay out of sight. French cuisine, where the hell does it come from? French anything, where the hell does it come from? So we're talking about them taking like $500 billion there, France does, and justice permanently threatened existence of African people when it is not our existence, when we are not organized under revolutionary leadership. We look at the mistake that some people make even with BRICS. And when I say make mistakes, I celebrate BRICS as a strategic assault on the existing arrangement, but that ain't the solution. Because if you study what happened with BRICS, you also study that India that just came into BRICS blocked Algeria's ability to come into BRICS. Algeria was a leading revolutionary force in Africa. And right now there's a problem because Algeria is uniting with all the other Africans who are fighting against this, fighting to uphold these struggles of Africa and these African military forces. So we have to make this revolution. It's going to take African people ourselves taking on our own responsibility. African people do have agency. And we have to organize that so that it can exercise itself. This whole notion that the Russians have to pay Black people and tell us what to do and what to say is something that feeds this whole ego, this whole narcissistic assumption of white power, white people, that somehow somebody white got to tell us what to do, got to tell us that we want to be free, got to tell us that if these instruments are there for us to advance with, that we have to do it, and that have to pay us to do it on top of that. It presupposes that we do not have agency. And the truth of the matter is, unless we have organization, we cannot exercise agency. We cannot do that. I don't care how many Africans you know want to be free. I mean that literally. You talk to your neighborhood, everybody you know believes in freedom in your neighborhood, but not doing a damn thing to facilitate that belief, to give agency to the interest of being free. And they will destroy any evidence of agency in the African community given an opportunity to do that. Right. So that's part of what makes this so significant, and this struggle that we're involved in to deepen the counteroffensive. And what we mean is on November 4th, the work we've been doing now for so many years, on November 4th, we're going to have thousands of African people march on the White House. And they're going to be a part of a broader coalition, broad in the sense that various forces are going to participate in it from philosophical and across the philosophical and political spectrum. But the thing that will unite this thing is it is going to be a mobilization, an anti-colonial mobilization for free speech. So hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, drop the charges now. This convention that we're having is happening in that same spirit, that when they attack our movement, it's like the enemy picked up a big rock and dropped it on its own foot. This movement, this NPW, on November 13th, what year was that coming around, Chimarina? November 13th, NPW, and the NPW movement, 96 came under attack by more than 300 police organizations, members of police organizations. They attacked the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida. They came in helicopters and what happened, the people shot the helicopter down. This is 1996, so NPW has always been cutting edge fighting on this issue of democracy, and the imperialists cannot defend themselves around this question of democracy. And when they lose the political and ideological battle, they resort to the only thing they got, which is violence, naked and raw violence, and that's what they've done with us now. So we can win, we are winning, and let us go ahead and deepen this counterinsurgency. Let's build NPW everywhere we can build it. Let's bring hundreds of people into the ranks of the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. Let's build NPW branches throughout the world. I don't know if the comrades in Africa and Europe are still with us on this in this convention, but NPW has to be everywhere. Right. We have to deny the ability of the colonizers, US, France, the rest of them, to preen around the world, talking about their purveyors of democracy and what have you, even as they're locking up Africans for just saying that we don't want to be oppressed no more. And that's what the US is doing. You're talking about a US government that just met in December last year with something like, how many, 49 so-called representatives of the African states. And where Biden made his presentation, you got to get that presentation. That presentation where he talks about he's apologizing kind of sort of to Africa for committing for the role of the United States in the original sin. What does he characterize as the original sin? That is Africans being enslaved, Africans being enslaved, the torture and murder that has been imposed on Africans. Biden said that. And if here you have somebody saying, this is the original sin, this is what Biden says, and then put the people in prison who are trying to get the sinners to repent for what it is that they've done. So you got the person who says that this is the original sin, you got the sinner then absolving himself of the sin. Nobody else has anything to do with it, etc. So I'm saying now all around the world, African people need to disallow the United States to be able to do that and the colonizers to be able to do that. And the United States has felt a great urgency to do this now like it did in the 1960s because it's trying to win Africans and other people to support the United States as a project that is better than what they see coming out of Russia, coming out of China and other places. They saying, look at the United States, we're a democracy. And these other countries, they say autocracies. And so this democracy attacked my home on July 29th of 2022. This democracy attacked a church, Black people's church in 1963 and killed those babies in Birmingham, Alabama. This is the democracy that we're talking about. They can't get away with that. So we want to deepen this counteroffensive and make this struggle. And we do that by pushing the democratic questions. You must participate in doing that. Take it wherever you go. Build NPDUM branches, bring more members into this organization, and put forth our understanding of this reality. All power to the people and Black power to the African nation. Uhuru. Working people usually have not had the benefit of our own organizations.
That's right.
This is one of the magnificent changes that happened with the development of the African People's Socialist Party. In the 1960s, we came under attack and we sort of stumbled into revolutionary consciousness. We were being pushed by history itself. But this time, we found the beginning where we built a revolutionary party. We know what our goals and objectives are. We know what it is that we're fighting for. We know what it takes to make a revolution. We have tactics and strategies. We have a philosophy that we believe in and that we are in pursuit of. And this is a magnificent difference now than what it was in the past. We have, for the first time, it's not the Democratic Party. It's not the Democratic Party led and controlled labor unions that's bringing us these places. We are going to get to Washington, D.C. November 4th on our own. Yeah. We are going to have to create these organizations, these committees, and these communities. Bring in at least one bus from St. Louis. Yeah. Bring in at least one bus that's coming out of St. Petersburg, Florida. Bring in at least one bus that's coming out of Chicago. We doing this as working people. We're not relying. We have to take responsibility for our freedom. We have to fund the NPDUM. We have to take that. The African working class, we have to fund the NPDUM. You have money. Yeah, I know we vote individually, but we can put our post stuff together just like we do ordinarily in our communities. Put that money to NPDUM. Give NPDUM. Give it the kinds of resources we need to represent the African working class. There's nothing too good for the African working class. And we have to take responsibility as African workers to put the resources where they need to be in order to advance the struggle and give power to the African working class.
Man, what can you say behind that? What can you say? accounts, pay that gas bill next month, you know, but pay and pay them now, because when you pay, that is your freedom, because ain't nobody gonna give it to you. We gotta have it. We gotta have our freedom, and we gonna have to take it on our own. Uhuru, I wanna bring you Comrade Masamela Odom to start out this next section of our program. Uhuru, Comrade.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru means freedom.
Yes.
Uhuru means freedom, freedom in our lifetime. Yeah, I want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela for that dynamic keynote address. Speaking towards today's theme, deepening the counteroffensive, completing the Black Power movement. This time we will win. And this time we will win because the massive African people are rising up, massive African people are coming back into political life, and what we struggle against is a weakened, dying colonial system. So this is so important, but central to this is membership, joining the international people. It's membership in a revolutionary organization underneath the leadership of the vanguard party of the African working class. That is the International People's Democratic Movement. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move into the appeal, the membership and sustainable funding appeal for membership in the International People's Democratic Movement. As part of this, I'm eventually going to call up some important comrades. If Comrade Tafari is still online, we'll hear from Comrade Tafari. We'll also hear from Comrade Lisa Davis. We will hear from Comrade Jesse Todd and Comrade Kabula Matumbo on why they joined the International People's Democratic Movement. So let's move forward. So the International People's Democratic Movement, what is the International People's Democratic Movement? The International People's Democratic Movement is a revolutionary mass organization fighting for self-determination. You've heard today that the slogan, self-determination is the highest form of democracy. This is so important, as Chairman Omali Yeshitela spoke of, because of the fact that when we rise up, what they try to do is call that an affront against democracy. They want you to think colonialism is democracy, but the colonialism is built on our unfreedom. So we can change slides. Now, once again, like I said, the International People's Democratic Movement was formed by the African People's Socialist Party underneath the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Change slides. We speak of the birth of impediment from the National People's Democratic Uhuru movement, 1991, but it's important to understand the origins, also going back to the People's Democratic Uhuru movement in Oakland in the late 1980s. This is a time in which the party, you heard Chairman say today, they would say that you could smell the cordite in the air. Cordite is the sort of, if I'm correct, that's the smoke that comes out of like a cannon. When you see in the movies, a cannon and smoke is called cordite. So that suggests, that means that, they came into an Oakland that was, that showed the results of the siege that have been placed on the African liberation movement. However, when I came across Oakland, this was 1996, the spring of 1996, I was a young high school student touring Northern California. It's in this program called Upper Bound. And we went on this Northern California tour. They took a lot of us from Long Beach and Compton and Wildtown. And they showed us colleges in Northern California. And we were driving up MacArthur Boulevard. We're driving up MacArthur Boulevard, first time in Oakland, my second time in Oakland, but first time I can really remember. And we look to the left and we see this yellow building. And we see this yellow building, and it's got Marcus Garvey on it. Know him, Huey P. Newton on it. It's got Malcolm X on it. And then it has another brother on it. And we think to ourselves, we're thinking to ourselves, this is the, well, somebody said, I said, what? We said, oh, what's that? A bunch of Africans from Compton, Long Beach, they say, that is the, that's the Black Panther headquarters. That's the Black Panther headquarters. And I remember thinking that. So we was like, man, wow, that's amazing. We passed the Black Panther headquarters, right? So years later, I'm in school, I'm reading about the Black Panthers. They say Black Panthers headquarters was in West Oakland. I said, and I'm arguing with people. I'm like, the Black Panther headquarters was, can someone please answer my phone with 4 feet? That's Fred Hampton's room. So the Black Panther headquarters, I'm told the Black Panther headquarters, I'm like, Black Panther headquarters on MacArthur Boulevard, East Oakland, right down the street from the Eastmont Mall. I'm like, I know it. The only reason I know that is because I listen to rap music. I know about Eastmont Mall. I ain't listen to rap music. So it's on MacArthur Boulevard. And then, I'm doing some, I'm in San Diego, some Uhuru movement organizers do some outreach. This was probably around the time that they had the 2012 Freedom Summer to rebuild the Uhuru House. They showed the pictures. It's like, man, you need to come up here to help us rebuild the Uhuru House. And Comrade Kwame passed away recently, and then another comrade by the name of Nwita. These brothers like, you need to come up here. I'm like, oh, that's the Uhuru House that I saw all those years ago. That was the Uhuru House. And for me, that stands out because of the fact it's the African People's Socialist Party. It's the Uhuru movement. It's the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. It's the mass program of the African People's Socialist Party, the reparations campaigns, the prison work, all the stuff you heard about, that not only that revived the Black Power movement, placed it on this trajectory, so much to the extent that people who call themselves former organizers and former activists are able to do something, make something of themselves because of what the Uhuru movement revived and put in place here in the United States, but not just in the United States, around the world. Around the world. This is the purpose of the attack. This is the purpose of the attack. Ain't nobody here broke into the Capitol and took a dump on the floor. Peed on nothing. None of that nonsense. Right? But that also lets you understand the power of African people doing for themselves. This is why you need to join the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. Right? This is why we could move forward. So we're formed to push back the counterinsurgency that create those conditions on which you live, on which your family members live, and which got Africans looking at each other as the cause of the issues we deal with in our own homes. But it's African internationalism that points your energy in the correct direction, that gives you the vision, the material understanding of what we need to do, not just that we need to be united as African people. There's tons of other ideologies that talk about that. But what we need to do to overturn this relationship. Change of slides. The International People's Democratic Uhuru movement is everywhere Africans are. As you hear in our report tomorrow, the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement is in no less than 6 countries on 3 different continents and the Caribbean, 25 states and 75 cities in North America. This is the permanent mass organization for African people, of which other organizations who want to contend with African internationalism and the Uhuru movement have done their, have modeled themselves after. That's why it's important, go get that t-shirt, 1989. At the same time that we organize African people to do for themselves, what? Other people, draped in red, black, and green was talking about doing community patrols with the police. We can tell white folk don't like us because they not putting people in prison. They letting these people come through our community. That's the analysis that other people who might even rock the same colors you got on, well, that's what they were saying. But not us. Not us. So it's important. This is important as one people. You heard Chairman say that the occupying the Zania front of the African Revolution, of the African Socialist International. You change slides. So Impediment has this long history of waging campaigns and resistance in defense of the African community. Africans Charged Genocide campaign, which garnered upwards of 130,000 signatures around the world. This is actually the date. September 9th, last year. I got a text message. Someone says, hey, African Charged Genocide campaign done? I said, no. So I went to the website. I said, oh man. I said, they hit us. Took down the whole website. All the nonsense y'all can find on the internet. We don't have to say it, right? You gotta put a Fort Knox of Fortress for your kids just play video games. But they took down our website, right? Why? Because one goal of counterinsurgency is to isolate the leadership from the masses, right? But they have not won. You know, as you'll hear from in tomorrow's report, they have not won. We are back. We are taking it to them. The people have shown their unity with the demand for African people themselves to charge the U.S. with genocide. Uhuru. Now, this is no small thing. When I first saw the ACG campaign, I was like, oh yeah, we charge genocide. I mean, brilliant. But ain't no 130,000 people signed the We Charge Genocide campaign. So the white left, all the people talk about Patterson, it's no diss to those comrades at all. But this African workers for themselves, taking this charge into their own hands. But where did that come from? We just read that today, 1991. Chairman said what? The National People's Democratic Uhuru movement need to take up a campaign to charge the United States with genocide. Done that. Yeah. But he also said African lawyers. So your cousin who went out there, got $800 billion in student loans to become an attorney, represent people in traffic accidents. He needs to use his skills for the African Revolution.
Yeah.
And not hope that Biden signs some waiver to let him get his loans forgiven.
Right.
The African Revolution, reparations, how you gonna get, they go the ones that ask for forgiveness. Yeah. So this is what we're talking about. So we can move forward. So in this point, Impediment is moving. Impediment, we're moving from the defense to the offense. That's what we're talking about. Impediment was placed on the offensive 15 years ago with the creation of the Revolutionary National Democratic Program. The Revolutionary National Democratic Program is the program of Impediment. So when you take it out into the world, you're taking out that Revolutionary National Democratic Program in defense of the democratic rights of the African community. It's a practical program of the African Socialist International. The RNDP responds to the colonial conditions experienced by African people inside the US and throughout North America, and recognizes that African people in North America and throughout the world are part of a dispersed African nation that must unite with Africans on the continent to liberate Africa. The RNDP recognized that the US, Canada, and Mexico constitute what is currently known as North America. We know that the US is the reigning, though declining, world imperialist power. Canada is its junior partner. So this is the program that Impediment, so this is Impediment's mass program. And this is the program we are taking out into the world as part of our counteroffensive. As part of our counteroffensive is how we define that, building branches. mass recruitment into impeding, right? Waging campaigns in defense of the democratic rights of African people. That is the purpose of impeding. Chairman laid it out clearly today. That's the purpose of impeding. If you unite with that, you need to go to impeding.org right now and join the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. So change slides, the vision. So the purpose of this membership and sustainable funding appeal, it's part of our vision to become a mission-centered organization for increasing membership and raising sustainable funding, building lifelong relationships with individual members and individual donors who truly understand and support our work. Change slide. So in doing this, we see Impedum has adopted the regional strategy put forward by Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party. You'll hear about the work taking place on the continent of Africa, just dynamic work, as well as throughout the United States, the Caribbean, the UK, France. Change slides. Yeah, so that's good. So Impedum has the goal today of raising $10,000. $10,000 for our strategic plan for 2023-2024. To donate to Impedum, you can go to impedum.org/donate. You can also go to our Cash App. And they call that a cash tag or something like that. So that's what they call a cash tag. But the $ symbol in IMPDUM. As well, we're taking pledges. So we got cards in the back. We have envelopes in the back. You can put your pledge information on those cards and help us get towards our goal today and tomorrow. But can we bring those bags in the back to the front? Yep. So what we like to do now is change slides. We would like to begin by saluting our Marcus Garvey members. These are lifelong members of the lifetime members of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. A lifetime membership of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement can be obtained with a with 1,000 place them on the table, please. With $1,000 worth of donations to the work of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And that can be done one time. That can be done in a series of donations. So I'd like to salute just some of our members. Chairman Omali Yeshitela, of course. So that's the Chairman Omali Yeshitela. We also have Deputy Chair Omali Yeshitela, who is not here today, but she will get her packet. Only thing, actually, you know, give it to Chairman. What's up, that's a small. We might have to get Chairman a large, or medium, but that's Chairman's shirt. Okay. So and so right now, as we honor our members, what they're getting just a small appreciation, a token of our appreciation. This is a framed commemorative photo of the 3 historic moments in the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, the forming of the People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, the forming of the National People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, and then the resolution in 2001 when Chairman Silimba was president of the then National People's Democratic Uhuru Movement that changed our name to the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. We know by that time, and the National People's Democratic Uhuru Movement had already been in the UK, West Africa, and under Chimaranga's leadership, actually have first moved into South Africa. So it's that point as well. I wanted to go ahead and salute Chimranga Silabao. All right, Uhuru. So this one right here is for Chimranga. Uhuru, Comrade Penny S. Comrade Penny S. In the room, we also have Comrade Jesse Todd. Salute, Comrade Jesse Todd. Okay. Oh, thank you. We got Comrade Fofi. Comrade Fofi. And we got Comrade Capoeira. Comrade City. We got Comrade Kitty Riley. Is Kitty still? We have Maureen, Comrade Kanji, B Queen, who's in town, Comrade Janice, Comrade Lisa Watson, Comrade Marissa, Comrade Shabaka out of Philly, Comrade and Comrade MQ. Comrade MQ, want to talk about a solid comrade. Comrade MQ is our newest Marcus Garvey member. So let's salute the Marcus Garvey members at this time. So now what we want to do, we want to call up our comrades. Comrade Jesse, is Tafari still on, or did he fall off? He fell off. So we'll call up Comrade Jesse Todd. We'll call up Comrade Lisa Davis, and then Comrade Kabula, all giving statements on why they joined the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. So, Comrade Jesse Todd, Uhuru.
Uhuru. First of all, it's been my honor, more than my honor, to join the MP Dom. I've been in the movement all my adult life. I started off in the Black Power movement during the time of Malcolm X, and I was in several what I would call Black Power organizations, including working with the Black Panthers, and they spent time, we all lived together. And believe me, I even lived with the Cubs. They brought the kids with them, but we had a one house and it was very crowded, but I loved living with them. Then I was also part of the African St. Louis Committee on Africa, which was working to liberate Africa. I was just going through and worked with several civil rights organizations. So I spent a whole lifetime in the movement, in the struggle, gotten a lot of experience from those struggles, as well as being elected in the 18th ward 6 times. And also recently getting to where I joined the Uhuru movement. That's where I found the love of my life. Let me be perfectly frank. I met the Uhuru movement, and I had been struggling over this issue since I was a young adult. They had been trying to cut the wards, and it was because of the petty bourgeoisie and the ruling class gentrifying our community and justifying cutting wards on the basis of the fact that the population was decreasing, and of course the population was decreasing because they set up this program called LRA, which take African people's property for taxes, but they don't let African people's property know. They don't let the African know. It was the first one where they set up to do what they call a land bank. in other words, through my experience in being in every movement, and being elected, and also what they mean by land bank is just taking Africans' property. Because I grew up in this area, so I know. I was a kid, and wherever African went, and they were taking hard-working African people's property from the South. How do I know it was from the South? Because my aunt, uncle, and my family, I was born on a plantation in the South under segregation. So I know. And when I came here after my mom died, I lived with my aunt, and they worked hard to get that property. But eventually, LRA, once it passed, that property was passed on to, as well as all the other people that I knew in many of the other people that I knew in St. Louis, their property was passed on to big, predominantly white developers with the complicity of the petty bourgeois, in most cases, the elected officials who could have stopped it, educated the people. But of course, the petty bourgeois job is not to educate African people. It's the front for the white ruling class. So they were doing that job. But as you probably drove in, those who haven't been in St. Louis can see that the neighborhood is run down, and it's not by, it's by design. And I know that for a fact, both as being an elected official as well as growing up in this area. But then I get to the point where I joined you, MP. The first time I came to I met MP. We were, as I said, we were struggling. And I was fighting, and so I met them. They told them to stay away from that just don't get near. I know they didn't want me to get, they probably didn't want to live in, and they told them they couldn't trust me. Of course they can't trust me. Because I'm gonna be standing with the people and they standing against the people. And so what they do is they always try to isolate, as the chairman said, they try to isolate all of us who stand with the people from everyone. They try to isolate us from the masses, and they also try to isolate us from each other. Yeah. But they were, unfortunately for them, they never have been able to isolate me from the masses, because I've always worked on behalf of the masses. And that's how, even though they tried not to get me elected as alderman, the reason I was elected, even though my mail never arrived until after the election, when I was running for alderman. But the people, and they said I didn't pay my taxes, but I had paid over $900. I had a bank of $900 worth of taxes of our pay. So they were lying, and they put that in the paper, but that still couldn't stop me. But the point I'm making is that they did put out the effort. But what happened when I met the Uhuru movement and impede them with that, as they were trying to cut, I did have an opportunity. They invited me to their meeting. I wasn't even running for alderman at that time. I was an elected official, but they invited me here, and I met them, and I got to know them, and then I read the African pledge. I hope we're not in a hurry, but I promised that after making this pledge allegiance to the African people, I promised that I would read it, but summarize it quickly by saying that this was one of the reasons I joined. It said I would learn all I can so I can share my skills, as you all know. Yeah. Not only have I been an organizer for more than 30 years, I'm an educator. I've been an educator in the city, county, parochial school, and a principal for more than 30 years. So then I made a pledge to whatever skills I have, I'm going to make sure I bring them back to after reading this, and I'm gonna bring them back to myself, to my community. And then they said that we're gonna keep ourselves physically strong, and not use drugs and other substances which weaken us and make us not be able to protect ourselves, our community. And you all know all the casualties of drugs like crack cocaine. We need to avoid those drugs. No drugs is a waste of money, waste of time. They're used against us, as you can see, not just with crack cocaine, but heroin in the past and any other drugs, including alcohol, yes, including marijuana, cigarettes. But marijuana, even though to show you how they don't enforce the law, marijuana still is a Class A felony, federal felony. And so when people say it's legal, no, but they let it go when they can make some money, but they can clamp it down, but it's still not good for you. And then it says, I was unselfish to share my knowledge and understanding with others in order to bring about change more quickly. I would discipline myself to direct my energies thoughtfully and constructively rather than wasting time and idle hatred. Now, I'm not putting down the Nation of Islam, but that was the first group I joined. And I was, to be perfectly frank, I was enraged. I was full of hate. I was in prison. We were ready to fight. George, 1963, we were getting ready to fight our potential ally. We were the other white working class prisoners. We were ready to just fight anybody. But that was acting out of rage. Yeah. And I want to commend Chairman Jesse Heston Chairwoman Heston, Jesse Neville, because they set an example of whereas and the chairman about his colonialism. But I didn't know then when I got into the national movement, all the white people I had met since I had been on a plantation, worry if you want to fight the devil on earth, the man on the plantation was the devil. When they told me the white man is the devil, I said, don't join it. You don't have to tell me anymore. But it was because of my experience. So that's why I love Deepening, because it says they're going to take you where you are. That's where I was. Yeah. When they said he was the devil, they didn't have to tell me anything else. So I joined right in there. I said, give me the card. I'm ready to kill all the white people I can find. And I did it. Because I thought by then we would be floating, sweating in blood. We may not have had guns. We would be fighting with knives, bricks, sticks, kicking, fighting, anything we could. Never be white on white, black on white. But we wouldn't be gaining any, we wouldn't be in colonialism. That's why that's why I joined when I read this, because I reflected back, saying that if I had done that, how would the masses have gained? How we wouldn't have gotten the freedom? But that's why we cannot act out on idle hatred. But thanks to the chairman, Jesse Neville and Chairwoman Head, that we now know that it's not white people, it is colonialism that we're fighting. It's not racism. That's why I joined. I was trained myself never to hurt any African man, woman, or child. Because we need every African man, woman, and child to be physically and mentally strong in order to win this battle against colonialism. So that's why, that was the reason after reading this, that I joined the African, the Deepening movement, and also looking at the works, and also the theories of African internationalism. As I said, it was the only one that answered the question about white people, because white people are not going anywhere. They're going to be here, whether you like them or not. We're going to be here, whether we like it or not. Yeah. So the chairman found a solution. The real solution is that we're going to end colonialism. Instead of just idly fighting against racism, because you'll never win fighting against racism, because that's a creation of the colonial, capitalist colonial ruling class, and they won't do us any good. So that's why I joined, was because of the fact that because of the pledge, and the pledge is not just a pledge, it's something that we should live by, something I live by, something that works, because it gets rid of because the world, if we want a better world for the future, better world for our children, better world for our grandchildren, there can be no better world without an end to colonialism. That's right. Yeah. We have only one choice: end the world or end colonialism. Right. Those are the two choices. Right. That's the choice. Right. So, Uhuru, comrades, and thank you.
All right, Uhuru. So, how's the pledges looking? So let's pull that back up. So $10,000. We're looking at $10,000. So if everybody in here got $10,000, we can just, we're gonna take it. $10,000. $10,000.
Will you give us time to raise it?
Without a doubt. You can surely make that pledge throughout the year, without a doubt. So we're looking at year-long pledges. So if you want to commit towards raising $10,000, go on and don't stop yourself and do.
I could go over the membership amounts like the market.
Yeah, so we moving through all that.
Thank you.
Uhuru. So $10,000. And then $5,000. 5,000. We get two people with five. Or 10 Marcus Garvey memberships. 10 Marcus Garvey memberships. That's only 10 people in here making a commitment throughout the year. That's $84 a month. $84 a month will make you a Marcus Garvey lifetime member, and we'll eventually go over some of those pledges into the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. We can also, we're also going for, so we're going to look at the different sustainable levels. We are going to do that. So now, however, let's bring up, let's move forward and then we'll hear from Comrade Lisa. So let's go to slide number 17. Slide 16. So Uhuru, so what will your legacy be? What will your legacy be? That's the question. Change slides. So you heard from Comrade Jesse, why he joined Deepening, his work. What will your legacy be? Right? When we talk about membership and fundraising, it's important for us to understand two things, right? Fun, F-U-N, right? Having a good time, right? This is, you ain't experienced no fun. You experience no happiness like the happiness of being free. That's right. But also fun, F-U-D-N, right? As in raising the most resources possible for genuine economic development of Deepening, right? That's what we talk about, power placed into our own hands. Change slides. So Deepening is as a part of embracing a regional strategy, we're building offices. Building offices here in North St. Louis, building offices in occupied areas known to some as South Africa. And in fact, Deepening has the mission of this $10,000 raised this weekend to purchase our own organizing center in Kokosi, Folkville, South Africa, not in the glamorous suburbs and other people who like to go out there and jet set. We talking about in the townships of South Africa, and Deepening has the mission coming out of here to have our own permanent organizing space in Kokosi, and that's where that is where your sustainable funding will go. Now, change slides. People want, now this is important, knowing about the work we're doing, because people want to see, touch, and feel Black power. We're always asking for donations for this, donations for that, right? Could you give to this project? We have to, but sustainable funding gets us off the treadmill. And allows for us to do for ourselves, have the ability for Deepening to have a paid organizing staff to go out there and fight for the African working class. So when a person calls that number on a card you pass out, someone is on the other side of the line to pick it up, to answer the email. That's the purpose of sustainable funding. So what is so great about individual living, individual giving. Individuals, of course. That's what's so great about it. They are the key to sustainable funding for our organization. You know, every single year, hundreds of millions of dollars are given out in donations and charity and all this other sort of stuff in the United States, and the vast majority of it come from people like you. The NAACP, which does not have the interests of the African working class, and it's saying St. Louis. St. Louis is remarkable. You can't throw a rock without seeing a place that say Urban League on it. Right. I mean, you go to Chop Suey, you say Urban League. Right. You go to City Gear to get some socks, Urban League. Liz get a hat, Urban League. Damn. I honestly never seen anything like this. It's like taco shops in San Diego, like Roberto's, Alberto's, or Urban League Erdo's. If it was in San Diego, they put an Erdo at the end of it, maybe then it's a taco shop. I mean, I never seen nothing like this. I mean, honestly, it's pretty surreal. But that's a notice to us, because the thing is that we struggle for the democratic rights of African people. So this is why, and if Africans, if those people are there and we're not there, they gonna go with those opportunities. They gonna go with those people. We gotta be there. That's the mission. That's a mission. So this is why we need your support. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move forward. We've got to talk about economic development. So there are, let's move to slide number 26. There are a variety of different ways through which you can become a member in the International People's Democratic Movement. For $25 a year, you can get access to basic annual membership. $25 basic annual membership. And then we have the George Jackson, Jesse Woods level. That's for incarcerated comrades. But the important thing about what we're doing now is not all incarcerated comrades going to stay incarcerated comrades. You're going to hear from formerly incarcerated comrades that can change levels and appeal. And sorry, comrade, you can't be that $5 annual membership no more. You out here swinging them hammers with us. So we're going to build this revolution. That's what it's about. You're going to hear about that. But we named it George Jackson, Jesse Woods this year. You hear about that for that reason now, too. It used to be George Jackson, now it's George Jackson, Jesse Woods. We'll speak to the importance of that change. Students, $10 annually, Musa Bantu level, students and unemployed comrades. Huey Newton, $60 annually, or $5 a month. Asada Shakur, $10 monthly, $120 a year. Malcolm X, $250 annually, $21 per month. Harriet Tubman, this is the one I use, because they always want to show you Harriet Tubman, a super old lady, bandana on her head. No, this is that Harriet Tubman too, because Harriet Tubman, she will be with us. Harriet Tubman will be with us. I don't have no doubt about that. Harriet Tubman died in a home for African people that she built, because there was no old age pension for African people. She built that. That's self-determination. But yeah, this is young woman's epistle that was printed on that Maryland Eastern Shore countryside. Ella Baker, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, when he gave the taxing strategies, he was on the platform with Ella Baker, Robert F. Williams, torch passed. Marcus Garvey level. This is, like I said, the lifetime membership. You receive lifetime membership, card, membership package, special gifts at our events, and the bonus feature of free admission to all impeding events. But today, if you donate anywhere between $10 and $99, you will receive this commemorative a photo, as well as a free Impedum ink pen. So like I said, this is the photo. That's 1989. That's the poster from 1991, formation of National People's Democratic Movement, and that's the 2001 a transition from Impedum with an N to Impedum with an I, and you'll receive that. If you, right now, donate $10 to $99. If you donate $100 to $249, you will receive that photo and a T-shirt. You receive that photo and a T-shirt. One of the T-shirts, either the conference T-shirt or the Impedum Deepening the Counteroffensive since 1989 T-shirt. So you receive one of those two, and so you make sure you give us your size and even give us your preferred T-shirt when you make your donation of $100 to $249. $250, $499, you will get a T-shirt, and let me show you one of the African Independence Workforce Program posters honoring the 5 different African heroes, formerly incarcerated African revolutionaries that the African Workforce Program House is named after. As well, if you go $499 to $999, actually $500 to $999, sorry, you will get a signed copy of Reparations Now, or Verdict in Reparations Now, and a T-shirt. And at $1,000, you get T-shirt, Reparations Now, Vanguard, both signed. So, how we looking? How are those pledges looking? Let's hear those pledges. Let's hold those pledges up. Let's hold those pledges up.
I'm gonna do Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman annual. And so Uhuru. Harriet Tubman annual. So we talking about $365.
But I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, so you can do $31 a month. So let's put down Comrade Lisa Davis. Let's give her a round of applause. $365, Comrade Davis. Uhuru. So who else? I think I saw Dia.
Yeah.
What we looking at? Dia.
Just me, $7 donation.
Uhuru, $7. Comrade, what's your name?
Steve.
Still, Comrade Stephen? No, behind. Jamal, Comrade Jamal.
$25 a month, pledge.
Oh, $25 a month. That was that Malcolm X?
No, so that's a pledge.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, $25 a year.
No, $25 a month. What's that?
Okay, yeah, who? $25 a month. $25 a month.
Oh, basic membership.
No.
Oh,
Uhuru, yeah, Malcolm X. No, so $25 a month. That place is in the Malcolm X range. So $21 a month. Uhuru, thank you, comrade. So that's $25 a month. That's $300. So Uhuru, $300 annual. Comrade Jamal. Thank you. So we got Comrade Jamal.
I made a pledge already. I did 100, but I guess I could change that to 365.
Uhuru. 365. Uhuru. So Comrade Stephen with a pledge for 365. Comrade. So who else? How are we looking?
I made a donation of $300.
Uhuru. Yeah. Wow, Fofi, donation, $300. $300. So we getting this all written down?
Yeah.
Uhuru. So who else? How we looking?
I just smashed that $20.
What's your name?
Lauren.
Thank you.
Uhuru, Lauren, $20. So we're waiting for those totals to roll in, and I'll let you know where we're standing. Comrade Kabula. $250. Comrade Kabula, $250. So these are all. Let's get them all plugged into that spreadsheet. Uhuru, Comrade Penny, put in 100. Uhuru, so.
Wait, Penny said what again?
100.
Thank you.
Uhuru, Comrade Brendan.
Just joined the elevator level.
Uhuru, elevator level. Salute, what's that, 600? Uhuru. So let's get those plugged into the spreadsheet. Maya. Thanks. Uhuru. Comrade Kitty. Yes, you did. So I'll tell you all where we're sitting right now. I want to salute, especially people who've already come in, making their pledges. The people who've already come in and made their pledges. I want to salute Comrade Emmanuel. Comrade Emmanuel, solid comrade out of Washington, D.C., who has made the pledge for $100. So Comrade Emmanuel. All right, so I want to salute Comrade Mwezi, the hands-off Uhuru chair, dynamic work over the last 14 months or some odd months. I mean, relentless in her work. $100 pledge. We got Comrade Disiona. We have Comrade Disiona with the $100 pledge. Fofi has already made the pledge. So you said $300. Does that include the?
That's the one I got.
Okay, so we got Comrade Fofi, 300. We got Comrade Penny Hess, 100 salute. Comrade Kabula, 250. Uhuru. Comrade Allison Haney, 100. Comrade Mattoon and Yobi, 100. V Queen, everybody, Comrade V Queen, 50. Comrade Cleo Manago, 150. Lisa Watson. 50. Uhuru. Comrade Jesse Neville, 50.
And 200 from me and the chairwoman. I mean, deputy chairwoman.
Okay, so another 100. So DC already said 100. So one more. Uhuru, so one more 100. Uhuru. We got Comrade Malik Shakur, who gave 10. Comrade Marissa, who gave 10. Comrade Tawanda Walters, who joined at $120 membership. Comrade MQ, $40 donation. Comrade Diop, $20 earlier today. So that making 27 for Diop. So what we hear, we hear another brief appeal on why she joined the movement, and then we'll get the total, come back to you all, and then move to our final panel for the day. So Comrade Lisa.
Uhuru, everyone! Uhuru! The Black is back. I'm a member of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. I happen to be the vice chair. And I can just tell you right now that you absolutely need a revolutionary politics, a revolutionary way of looking at life so you can wake the hell up in the morning. You absolutely need that, and especially if you are Black. That will determine how you eat your breakfast and even how you say good morning. I remember these are such, Black people don't know nothing but tumultuous times, so it's hard for me sometimes to always compare the different times that we're in, because there ain't never been no good times for African people upon the arrival of colonizers in our lives.
Yeah.
There ain't never been no good times. But we do still have to recognize the times that we are in and how to navigate through them. And I just remember that with Barack Hussein Obama becoming the new face of imperialism, and they just so happened to have put this black man, a man with a black face out in front around the time they wanted to build up AFRICOM. And that was a very interesting time because I saw so many people, and this is not to put down anybody else who's in the movement. I mean, we learn our lessons, but there was just some truth that many people went for Barack Obama. And that to me was very distressful because we had no reason to support him. If we just look at his policies and his statements, there was no reason, period, that we should have ever supported Barack Obama. Everybody talked about Martin Luther King and Malcolm, and then Barack Obama. That's something that should not have been. And I can just say very proudly so that the Black is Back Coalition, which I was affiliated with at that time, still am, that under the leadership, I know that Chairman Omali Yeshitela is one of the co-founders of that coalition, but also we have people like Glenn Ford and so many other revolutionary people. But I would say we stayed the course, although we did have some very serious discussions. It's not, I mean, there were even people within the coalition that supported him, but we had the conversations, we had the discussions, and we talked about it relentlessly many times, many times. So that at least people would be like, well, we got to look at this and this and that. And I've just seen things deteriorate so much that it is really inexcusable. You can't even put any kind of front on why anyone would be supporting either of these two parties, period. But we know for the most part that it is the Democratic Party, not the Republicans, although equally as horrible. To me, it's like comparing the difference between The Exorcist and The Omen. I'm like, there ain't no difference. But we know that the Democrats are the ones who are the great pretenders, who pretend to be our friends. And I often sit here and have said to myself that it seems like the biggest benefactors of the Black liberation struggle in the 60s and all that, and of the right to vote, has been the Democratic Party, not Black people. And it's literally at this point where, and I just gotta say it, you are putting, I've seen Black people, I've seen it, and it has broken my heart, where they put the Democratic Party over Black people. And our struggles, our history, that our people, like Chairman Omali was saying, it was through blood that we got any kind of right ever, even the right to vote or whatever. It was bloodshed, and the will of our people. We didn't even get the right to vote by voting for it. It could have happened like that, but it didn't. They did not pass any laws saying, okay, you can vote. They could have, but no politician did that. It was through the blood and struggle of our people. And I just see our movement being pimped out there. I really do. They got John Lewis, oh, anti-violent, non-violent, John Lewis himself. And they named worship after him. And he was so honored by that. They named the worship after Sojourner Truth. They talk about naming a $20 bill after Harriet Tubman. And I know that these things are able to happen, and I have to just say this because people in our community, politicians who have been elected and all of that, is basically delivering our movement to them. And especially even so to the Democratic Party. It is disgraceful that Biden, after he allowed, he quoted, ironically, it was Trump, under Trump, the investigation was open to investigate Carolyn Bryant. And I know it wasn't because Trump did it because he wanted to, it was because of the work of our people making that happen. But under the Biden administration, the Department of Justice closed the investigation. In other words, they protected Carolyn Bryant, and she was allowed to croak without ever having to worry ever about the anybody coming after her. And yet I know, and then after she croaked, then Biden turns around and says he's gonna create some building or whatever and name it for Emmett Till. And the thing that breaks my heart is that I know that Black people who know he did all of that are gonna turn around and vote for Joe Biden. And I say to myself, are we gonna be the generation in our lifetime? I mean, King, Malcolm, the revolutionaries in the Civil War who fought so hard, they cannot live forever. And that ain't their fault. They cannot live forever. Family, they cannot live forever. And we're gonna be the generations that things are being turned back on. That to me is unbearable. Yeah. We're gonna be the generation that's gonna lose it. No. And I can see even more clearly now the importance of the Uhuru movement and NPDOM. And it's interesting to me that I just sort of observed that if you want to live in a somewhat clean house, a somewhat nice house, you have to work every single day. You gotta get up. It's really hard work to keep a clean house. It truly is. It's hard work to do that. Ain't no lie. But you can take a house that is vacant, nobody in it for 5 years. Yeah. And you come back, and the home could be pretty nice looking initially, pretty nice, clean. It could be a clean house. Let no one occupy it for 5 years. Let nothing supposedly happen in it. And that place will be in such disrepair. It will be so dirty. Yeah. No one has done anything to it. Yeah. You stay in your house a whole week and do nothing. Trouble will be at your door. Trouble at the door even when you're working hard. But it will be at your door like you have never seen. So there is no such thing really as doing nothing. It's about how hard are you willing to work to create the life that you want. And when I hear ain't no such thing as being apolitical either. That's what the colonizers want you apolitical. They want to, and I hate to use this term but it's the only one I can think of right now. They want to dumb you down. They don't want your mind thinking about anything because there ain't no such thing as doing nothing. In the same way with that house, if you don't do anything to it, vermin will be in, it will be in such disrepair, and that's what they like. That's what they want to do to our minds. So we have to put in the work. Ain't no such thing as doing nothing. So it cannot be where you're going to be like, well, I don't want to be a part of the revolutionary movement, so I'm just not going to think about anything. No, that is not what is going on. It's either you're going to be a part of this revolutionary movement, it's either you're going to live your life. You can create an internal environment to make it easier for you to live. I have worked almost my whole life in the bowels of the beast. I don't even like to tell people this, but it's the truth. Wall Street. And I had to sit up there, and say to these usually always white men, because they ain't had no Black men or usually Black women, but even still, it wasn't for about the revolution. And I had to sit up there and put this mask on and say, yes, sir, and all of that. But I would do it in the way with that movie about Malcolm X when, Malcolm is a reporter and he goes, yes, sir. But in his mind, he's throwing it in their face. I had to create that kind of internal environment. And also, I was always involved with the struggle, with the movement. So that made it easier for me to be able to function in that kind of environment, although I knew fully well that I was doing work that was advancing the work of the colonizers, and that was showing up in all kinds of ways in our people with insurance and all of that kind of stuff. But it's like I had to make, a living so I could afford to live somewhat but I was always about making sure that I was putting in my movement, my time and everything into the Black liberation struggle. And I said to myself, what's one of the things that I could do that would make these dead presidents roll over in their grave? What's the one thing I could do? I'm like, oh yeah, I could take that money with their faces on it and give it to the Black liberation struggle. So we have got to be about this life. Ain't nobody coming down from the heavens to save us. We are the people. We are the people that are alive today. And either we are going to advance this struggle, or we are going to be humiliated in history by what we are allowed to have. I take it personally that we could not deliver justice for Emmett Till. And one of the reasons I take it so personally is because of the so-called strategies that people have chosen to adopt, which is a losing strategy that is, it's like metaphorically enslaving us again, hanging us. That's the only way I can look at it. If it was a strong revolutionary strategy, then I could say this is a part of the fight, but I cannot say that knowing the strategy that way too many of us have embraced. And it cannot be like that. It cannot be like that. I say this again, I say this from, I remember, I'll just say this real briefly and then I'll conclude, but I remember 2014 when Mike Brown was murdered, because Mike Brown, what happened to him is very much the reason why at least a lot of us are here. And I remember and because I'm learning more. I had joined the Black is Back Coalition maybe a couple of years prior, and I'm learning it takes a long time for everybody to understand the Uhuru movement and what fun is this and what organization is all of this. It's real. It took me about 7 years. Somebody called me, they're like, you paid for my impeded membership. I'm like, no, I didn't, because I'm not a member of impeded. She goes, but you did. I'm like, when? She goes, at the impeded convention you attended. I'm like, oh yeah, I did attend something like that. But I wasn't even aware, and I paid for her membership, and I just recently became a member of NPDOM officially. I just have to share this and then I'll be done. But I just remembered, so in 2014, and I'm learning more about Omali Yeshitela work within the Black is Back Coalition, and I noticed that there seemed to be a network where I could call the chairman up. I've done that several times and say, do you know anybody in this area? Do you know anybody here? What can we do? How can we show support? So I remember, I think I made a call to the chairman, or maybe to Sister Kange, and I found out that, oh, he's already in Ferguson. And I think that the Black is Back Coalition I remember it as we were having our convention in Philadelphia the week after Mike Brown was killed. It may have been a little different, but I said, okay, when I see the chairman, I'm gonna ask him, what can we do more? I go to that convention in Philadelphia, and it had Brother Akiba Rudy was there, and so many other people from St. Louis were there. Sister Kalambayi and Danette, she was one person, and they were ready, on fire to just take this forward. But it was under the vision and inspired by the vision of the Uhuru movement and Omali Yeshitela. Then in 2015, we had the Black is Back Coalition, we had our convention in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was in, I guess, some kind of community center or something like that. I have pictures. I'm going to try to find those pictures and compare it to now. And then 2 years later, I'm hearing the chairman, saying some things. It sound like nice things to say. And then 2 years, I think it was about maybe 2 years later, it is the Uhuru House here. And then I remember them talking about there was this lot right next to the Uhuru House. They were going to build it, and they were going to erect this huge red, black, and green flag. And look, it's there. And I have watched so many things unfold right in front of my eyes. I have heard, even with the Black is Back electoral campaign school, I have repeatedly heard the chairman speak words And then I've seen them words come into action. I have seen them concretize and happen. So you should join in PW, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. Become a part of the Uhuru Movement. You need a revolutionary strategy upon which to live. You need to internalize it. You need to be thinking about it every day, because when you are not, then you are allowing the colonizer to. So it's either going to be the mind of the revolution or the mind of the colonizer. Which life are you going to choose? Uhuru!
All right, Uhuru. So this is Black Power in Action, everybody. So I just want to give you all an update, and we'll give you all a running total towards the end. Towards our $10,000 goal for this weekend, right now in pledges and donations, what we have is $6,317. I want to keep it going. Call other people that you know should be on here. People should be in here. Send them the Zoom link. Keep it going today. We have a whole other day tomorrow to keep these donations coming in. The pledges. We see the work that we're doing. We see the reasons why you all should be committed to this work. So now what we're going to do, we're going to transition to our last panel for today, which is the hands-off Uhuru panel. So as a part of that, we're going to hear from the Uhuru 3 with an update on the hands-off Uhuru panel. Following that, we're going to present to you all the Sanctuary City resolution, and going to have all the PETA members take a vote in support of the Sanctuary City resolution, in which we'll hear from Jesse Todd as a prelude to that. So that's the end of the program today before the intermission that we'll have, and we'll return back later on this evening. But let's go on and bring up the Hands Off Uhuru panelists and salute you all for the work that you all are doing. We'll get another tally because things are still coming in, but let's go on and we'll invite the comrades up. Uhuru. We got copies.
Okay, they're good. It's up to you. You're the president.
Mr. CSGI, you have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant for this.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out. Something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
Yeah, breach, what do you mean?
They won. I don't know. Oh, it's all better than money.
All of it.
Thank you.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Hands off Uhuru! Uhuru just really wants to salute this, again, this amazing, this profound Impediment Convention today, and everybody who's here. And just want to say that I am the vice chair. I have the honor of being the vice chair of Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa, led by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. The next slide. I'm sorry. Oh, we have our slides. Is the mic on? I guess not.
It's on.
Are we able to have the slides that we sent? I think is Lisa doing that or Liliana? Okay, all right, Uhuru. So I just want to say first of all that Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa coalition or campaign to begin with was founded almost the very next day after, maybe July 30th, by Chairman Omali Yeshitela as an incredible fight back response that has been an amazing, powerful effort, campaign, just really bringing the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party to the world stage and embracing the leadership that the African Liberation Movement has always had in galvanizing the anti-colonial struggles of the entire world and all people who are fighting for First Amendment rights and freedom of speech right now based on the right of African people to freedom of speech to win African liberation. So I have the honor of working under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. So next slide, please. Salute to Chairman Omali Yeshitela. I'm going to say a little bit more about this. This is an incredible PowerPoint put together by the chair of the Hands Off Uhuru Coalition, Chair Mwezi Odom, who is really a dynamic leader who couldn't be here today. Uhuru, who's been there for all of the webinars and just really an amazing job. So salute to her, and she put together this amazing presentation here. Next slide. So just to say again, July 29th, 2022, 5 a.m. as we saw a little bit in that video, in St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Petersburg, Florida, where it was 6 a.m. at the same time, 7 properties, homes, offices of the Uhuru movement of the African People's Socialist Party were the target of a coordinated military assault on the chairman, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and on the Uhuru House of St. Petersburg, Florida, which had been the Uhuru House on the center of the African Revolution for decades, and on the Uhuru Solidarity Movement office, the Uhuru Solidarity Center here in the south side of St. Louis, as well as the homes of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Director Akile Anai, Jesse Neville, and Kitty Riley and myself and Amanda Carlozzi. And this was, you know, a military assault with assault rifles, armored vehicles, drones, flashbang grenades being used. This went on for 6 hours, at least 7 hours, then 8 hours in every location. Streets were cordoned off, and all of this. And at that time, no indictments, no arrests were made. So immediately, next slide, please. Yes, immediately after the raids, within the hour, Chairman Omali Yeshitela called a press conference in front of his house, and Alderman Jesse Todd and Chairman Saki Baruti came right out and stood with the chairman, and it was picked up actually by the local Fox News, and this video of this this press conference had, at least the last time we looked, 750,000 views overall. So it immediately got out around the world, around the United States. Next slide. And on that same day, Director Yeshitela had a very, very powerful press conference in St. Petersburg as well. And that also went viral. That was seen by tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views as well. Everybody was talking about that as well. And under the indictment targets, although we were not indicted at that time, the warrant, there were 4 Uhuru movement members who were unindicted co-conspirators, which they didn't say our name, but everybody was out on Twitter. They were all saying who it was. It was Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Director Akile Anai, myself, and Comrade Jesse Neville were the unindicted co-conspirators. I'm just giving a little bit of what happened and what was taken on, but we want to salute the December 12th movement. By August 5th, they held a press conference with many, many organizations in New York City, something that, you know, just really, really uphold the fact that they jumped right out there in Brooklyn, New York, and held this powerful press conference in support of the Uhuru movement. On August 10th, 2022, Chairman Omali Yeshitela was on, this is, I think this next slide, yes, was interviewed on Democracy Now!, and that was seen by over 1 million people. That was the first time the chairman was interviewed. In September and October, there was a tour to Philadelphia and Newark, New Jersey, New York City, and Oakland and other places, and certainly here, many events here. And that was really powerful and also a very important fundraiser. So let me see, next slide. In October 2022 was the March for Reparations in St. Louis, but also I believe there was a Day of Reparations in St. Petersburg, Florida, and other cities as well. And it was really powerful to be out there with signs, hands off Uhuru, stop the FBI attacks on Chairman Omali Yeshitela. White people were honking. We were out in Tower Grove Park. It was really, really powerful and dynamic. And we had, next slide, we had endorsements pouring in from across the political spectrum. Many, many, many organizations. This is their logo, some of the logos there. You can see this all on handsoffuhuru.org. Please go there for everything. We don't have time to name all of the hundreds of supporters and donors who contributed thousands of dollars towards the legal fees that we're still raising money for, and this is just a few of them. M1, Charles and Inez Barron, Belinda Parker Brown, Robin Kelly, and many others. Benjamin Prado, Muñoz del Barrio, Betty Davis, and Ralph Pointer. So very powerful support. November 5th, 2022, last year, Black is Back March on the White House. Really powerful event, which we're going to be talking about, which is going to be happening again. That was the Black is Back Black People's March on the White House. That was the 14th annual one. In this last year, we've had over 100 media interviews, articles, commentaries, again, all across the political spectrum, even to Tucker Carlson, who was featured the chairman, said he thinks he likes this guy. And 2 days later, he was fired by Fox News. So just say that. And again, international media coverage and support from French and Arabic, Venezuela, Germany, London, and France, and many other places as well. Hands Off Uhuru website, handsoffuhuru.org. Again, go there. Everything is recorded there. It's a very, very powerful website and a wealth of information about this, but also about African internationalism and Chairman Omali Yeshitela. We're saluting our powerful legal team that came together, including Rutaki Akbar, Addie Griffin, and Leonard Goodman, who wrote the motion to dismiss, and Director Chimarenga Samambao, who is the coordinator of that, and also Comrade Jesse Neville, who works with the legal team and contributed a lot towards that. So I want to say also that the FBI has not stopped its attacks. The party in St. Petersburg, Florida, just 22 days or something before the July 29th attack, somebody came to St. Petersburg, Florida, to the Uhuru House, took a military level flamethrower, not something you could buy to start a barbecue pit or something like this. Was a serious kind of thing that was in the trunk of their car. They took it out of the trunk of the car and lit the red, black, and green flag in St. Petersburg on fire, and there was no consequence for that. The state did not prosecute that at all. And also in September of 2022, as President Matsamela also stated, change.org removed the Africans Charged Genocide petition, which was very powerful and had gained 130,000 signatures. They just took it down. They also had the unlawful arrest of an Uhuru movement organizer. Next slide. On January 7th, 162 days after the FBI raids a church right across the street from Chairman and Deputy Chair's home. Also one, and that is Deputy Chair's car sitting right next to right next to the fire engine there, which the fire engine wasn't doing anything whatsoever, but the party, and well, actually it was it Black Star Industries or APDF that had a bid on buying that church had a contract on a church to use it for just all the emerging programs of the Black Power Blueprint here in St. Louis. Also in February 2023, Pinellas County revoked a grant to the Black Power 96.3 FM radio, which is still being fought very, very seriously in St. Pete now. Also, next slide, Regions Bank, GoFundMe, Stripe, I don't know, all of these things have Regions Bank closed all accounts from the Uhuru movement, including my personal one, APDF's account, forcing them to pay a mortgage off, within that month. And also GoFundMe held resources, $10,000 that had been donated to Hands Off, and it took months and months and months of struggle to get that back. And now, what is it called? Square. Oh, Square also has closed the accounts of the Uhuru movement. Very just ongoing, but as soon as we win, we're going to sue their asses. Yeah. That the FBI and the U.S. government, the colonial government, wanted the Uhuru movement to do was to be able to divert all funds that go to the programs of the party to the legal fees, which were enormous and still are, but that didn't happen. And the Black Power Blueprint, under the leadership of Deputy Chair Omali Yeshitela, the basketball court was finished and dedicated. The murals, the workforce program housing was dedicated just a few weeks ago. The work on the African Doula Project continued. And in fact, the very day of the raids, last July 29th, at the Uhuru House, the Doula program went on. They did not raid the Uhuru House here. And there were, I believe, 16 African women from this neighborhood who were trained as doulas, birth attendants, to be in the African communities. Nothing stopped whatsoever. The struggle continued, and that is very powerful because even supporting the basketball court. So another thing that this committee took up was the resolution for sanctuary cities. I think the People's Alderman is going to tell you more about that, but it's very powerful. It's going to be, a big campaign to be taken on around the U.S. In March 2023, Hands Off Uhuru went to Regions Bank headquarters in Birmingham, Alabama, and held a demonstration there, and met a lot of other people who were like, we hate Regions Bank. They'll join, they wanted to join the boycott of it. It was very powerful. Just really want to salute Comrade Rage and Torian Nova, who made that trip as well, and were very powerful. In March 18, 2023, Chairman Omali Yeshitela's electrifying speech at the Washington, D.C. anti-war mobilization that won a lot of people for support. This is a picture of the Uhuru movement there in Washington, D.C. as well. And April 18th, 2023, the indictment came down on the Uhuru 3, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, which we know is the target of this very serious, the most serious attack on the African liberation movement since the 1960s. Also against myself, against Comrade Jesse Neville. Next slide, the arraignment was of the Uhuru 3 was in Tampa, Florida in early May of this year. In May 2023, a day of action was held in over 20 cities worldwide. Next slide, the day of action in St. Petersburg, Florida. Day of action in San Diego, California. Day of action coordinated by Union de Barrio in Los Angeles, really powerful. Day of action in occupied Tanzania. It's one of the really powerful ones. Day of action in Liberia, West Africa, etc. So many places throughout the world, people were standing up, hands off Uhuru. There have been over 100 webinars and events. Chair Mwezi put together all of these things, not all coordinated by this campaign committee, but by many other places, and just participated in so much. Also under the fundraising team led by Comrade Jesse, we raised 85%. I think it's more than that now. Incredible donations and support from so many donors. Also, Chair Mwezi was able to go to Cuba with the Hands Off Cuba committee and had, able to raise the banner of Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa in Havana and throughout Cuba. So we salute that. That was very, very important. On July 8th, the Hands Off Uhuru and Hands Off Africa campaign officially built the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition with over 40 organizations that have committed to become members of this. It's just a few of them that you see up there, with the goal of building the anti-colonial free speech movement. There's a lot more we could say about that. And we are fighting to drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. Next slide. The motion to dismiss, written by Attorney Leonard Goodman, sets a landmark precedent. It was so powerful. It is available on the homepage of Hands Off Uhuru. If you haven't read it, it's amazing. And it's really, really a powerful document, heavily led by and the influence of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. It's a political document that exposes the fact that this is a political attack and it's absolutely insane and completely bogus that Chairman Omali Yeshitela in any way would be influenced by the Russians and, has fought against genocide and for reparations for many, many decades, as we know. And just to say that the motion to dismiss was submitted, I think, about a month ago, and then the prosecution had a response to that, and the lawyer, the Uhuru team was able to put in a response to the state's response, and now the state has granted, the judges granted oral arguments, which is really, really a victory. Yeah. We are winning, and we will be going there on the 28th of September, and this will be heard in the Middle District Court of Tampa or Florida, which is in Tampa, and everybody here is invited to come, be in the audience of that. That would be historic. So our next meeting of the Hands Off Uhuru Coalition, our next web event is September 11th, this coming Monday, 6 p.m. You can go to tinyurl.com/hands-off-events to sign up for that. That will feature Reverend Kiana Jones, representing from the Stop Cop City struggle, where there are so many other struggles that are, since this attack on the chairman, that are now other movements that are facing serious attack based on the door that's been opened by the attack on the leadership of the African Revolution. That's why we have to push back the state, free Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and we free all of these other cases. So Monday we'll be interviewing and speaking with Kiana Jones from Stop Cop City, as well as Adelso Moret and Jesus Rodriguez. Adelso is from Cuba and from the Martin Luther King Center in Havana, Cuba, and Jesus is from Orinoco Tribune of Venezuela, and they're just profound supporters of this Hands Off Uhuru and Chairman Omali Yeshitela. So we want to call on everyone to, I don't know what happened to my last slide, to come out November 4th, the 15th annual Black People's March on Washington, led by Black is Back Coalition, co-sponsored by Hands Off Uhuru. It's going to be amazing, really, really powerful. People are bringing buses and lots of commitments for being out there. So if you want to, please sign up for that. It is tinyurl.com/build November 4th. Uhuru. Yes, you're on. or maybe we should.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe we should. Justice's going to talk about the cases.
Good. Talk about the cases.
Okay, Uhuru, Chairman. Thank you, Chairwoman Penny and Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And it's again an honor to be here at the International Convention of Impedum and to talk about the Hands Off Uhuru campaign. I just want to salute Chair Mwezi Odom and just give a round of applause for Definitely want to salute Chair Mwezi, just brilliant, relentless leader of the Hands Off Uhuru counteroffensive day in, day out, night and day, literally, through the night, pushing forward this incredible counteroffensive. And the strategy and the leadership of the chairman, as Chairwoman Penny said, who launched the Hands Off Uhuru campaign on July 29th, that very day on the steps of his house right here in North St. Louis. And I just want to say that as one of the Uhuru Three, I am very proud to stand with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Chairwoman Penny Hess as part of this incredible fight back under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. And I want to speak to the question of fundraising quickly, and also recap a little bit of what has gone on in terms of the legal aspect of this case and some of the motions that have been filed. And I do want to recognize Director Chimaranga Selambao. Director Chimaranga leads the privileged group of attorneys and the Uhuru Three who meet on a regular basis. And I also just want to recognize that immediately after the raids on July 29th, the donations started pouring in. And they continue to pour in over the past year, making it possible for the Uhuru Three, at first it was the Uhuru Four, the four unindicted co-conspirators, to assemble a powerful legal team and to hire attorneys. And that included at the time, Life Malcolm representing Director Kile, as well as was mentioned, Mutaki Akbar, Addie Griffin, and Leonard Goodman, who is actually doing this case pro bono. I just really want to shout out and salute Attorney Leonard Goodman out of Chicago. And the legal team also was recently joined by Angela Rini, who's a lawyer out of Chicago, out of Illinois, who's working with Attorney Leonard Goodman and with our team on this case. And the whole legal strategy that has been pushed forward by the political leadership and strategy of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And as Chairwoman Penny laid out on April, so there was July 29th was the raids. Then there were the unindicted co-conspirators, and that was, as the chairman has explained, that puts you in a situation where you basically have no legal recourse because you haven't actually been indicted. So you can't challenge your designation as an unindicted co-conspirator. You have no rights as far as the court is concerned to challenge that. Then 9 months later, on April 18th, the chairman and Chairwoman Penny Hess and myself were indicted, and the charges that they brought against the chairman and the Uhuru Three are 2 counts of felony charges, federal felony charges. One of them is 18 U.S. Code 371, which is conspiracy to commit an offense against or defraud the United States government. The maximum prison sentence for that charge is 5 years. The second charge was 1 count of 18 U.S. Code 951, which is also known as the Agent of Foreign Governments Act, which is often confused with the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And the 18 U.S.C. 951 is acting as an unregistered agent of a foreign government, basically being a secret agent of a foreign government without registering as an agent with the Attorney General's office. And as the indictment puts it, in this case, we are charged with being agents of, to wit, the Russian Federation. So the 951, 18 U.S.C. 951 is a charge that you can't find that many examples of it actually being prosecuted by the federal government of the United States. It's a seldom used law that is only used very selectively to target those that the US government wants to target politically. And the law actually comes out of the 1917 Espionage Act, which was a law created to bust spies. And that was created in 1917 after the Russian Revolution. And it was created ostensibly because the US government and the FBI were worried about the spread of Russian influenced communist ideology throughout the United States. But if you actually, the chairman recently recommended that I look at this book called Enemies, which I have here, about the history of the FBI, which talks about that whole period where using things like the Espionage Act in 1917 and the Sedition Act, which was an add-on to the Espionage Act, the US government and the FBI carried out massive raids against people that they were accusing of being under the influence of the Russians and spreading communism and socialism and things like that. They had the Palmer raids where they went after, in one fell swoop arrested 10,000 people. And there were other kinds of raids that they carried out. But what—
In 3 days, right?
In three days, yes. And what the book, because the writer of the book is even though he's talking about the history of the FBI, he's still actually sympathetic to J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI. So what he fails to mention is that that era of widespread repression by the FBI came on the heels of what they refer to as the Red Summer, which was these massive these massacres, white massacres against African people in cities all throughout the United States. But because Africans had come back from the first imperialist war and had experience with guns and had guns, those massacres didn't go the way the white lynch mobs were expecting them to go, and Africans fought back in many cases. And a member of the Uhuru movement who's actually in prison in Oklahoma, Makandal Sinke, wrote an article for the Burning Spear a few months ago where he said, the real scare in the United States has never really been the red scare, it's been the black scare. Yeah. And that's exactly what was happening even back then. Yeah. There were articles in the New York Times about the Red Summer that said headlines like, Reds stir, quote, Negroes to revolt. So their anti-communist thing at that era was actually about their fear of the rise of African people and African resistance. And there was even a quote from Woodrow Wilson, who was the president at that time, who said that the quote, Negro in America is the greatest medium for the conveyance of Bolshevism in the United States. So clearly that was the pedestal that was the platform, not to mention the attack on Marcus Garvey. The FBI had already opened an investigation into Marcus Garvey by the time of the Palmer raids in 1919, 1920. And so that's clearly what this is about, what it's always been about, is the attack on African people fighting to free themselves from colonial oppression. And so anyway, that's just some background on this law. This 951 law comes out of the Espionage Act. The Department of Justice even refers to it as espionage light. So in other words, they're accusing Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who's been fighting for the liberation of African people for over 60 years, of being a secret Russian spy. That is essentially what is the crux of the US government's bogus indictment. So after this indictment came out, there was a massive outpouring of outrage. And it was I want to point out that the initial outpouring of outrage, we actually were not speaking to the media for about 10 or 11 days because we had arraignments in Florida. So we were getting ready to go to the arraignments, and there was a strategic decision to not do media interviews at that time. So all of the outrage was purely based on people reading the indictment itself, not even our response to the indictment. But they read the indictment and they read the Department of Justice's press release, where the Department of Justice said that what Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru movement had done was weaponize freedom of speech. That's in their words. So in May of this year, the chairman and Chairwoman Penny and myself were arraigned. The chairman and us were shackled and chained. They put the chairman and the Uhuru 3 in cells in jail for hours. Booking, mug shots, fingerprints, all of that, and then brought out the chairman again in leg irons and handcuffs into the courtroom to read the charges and to go forth with the arraignment. And in July, Attorney Leonard Goodman filed this incredible motion for dismissal, which basically laid out, everyone should read it if you haven't. You can read it at handsoffofwho.org/motion to dismiss. And basically, if you read it, it's brilliant because it starts off with who the African People's Socialist Party is, what the African People's Socialist Party believes, the definition of colonialism, the history and track record of the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Omali Yeshitela's long struggles against US imperialism and colonialism as documented in the Burning Spear newspaper, going back to the early 1970s, predating even these Russians that are being characterized as being the puppet masters behind the Uhuru movement weren't even born when Chairman Omali Yeshitela was writing and saying and doing the things that are laid out in the motion for dismissal. And the basic legal argument in the motion for dismissal is that every single overt act that the Uhuru movement, the chairman are accused of carrying out in furtherance of the conspiracy is political speech that is supposed to be protected by the First Amendment of the US Constitution. If you read the indictment, the overt acts that are used to prove that this conspiracy took place are that the chairman ran candidates for office, ran Director Akila and myself for office in St. Petersburg, Florida on a reparations platform, that the party that impeded held the Africans Charged Genocide petition campaign to go to the United Nations and bring the question of genocide before the United Nations using international law. That's one of the overt acts. Doing a reparations tour to go to speak on the question of Africans Charged Genocide, that's one of the overt acts. Publishing articles in the Burning Spear newspaper, that's one of the overt acts. And I just wanted to quote this thing that you read this morning, Chairman, from your founding document to the impediment in 1991, because it just made me think of exactly what's happening right now. The chairman said, serious principled struggle in defense of the national democratic rights of African people as part of the process to expose the US counterinsurgency, leading to the abrogation of many of those democratic rights, will shatter the democratic facade of the colonialist white ruling class state. Yep. That's exactly what has happened here. Yeah. The African people fought for the democratic space and fought for the right to vote and to participate in elections and to take petitions before the World Court. And they did that. And the US government responded with flashbang grenades and battering rams. Yeah. So just to wrap this up, the motion for dismissal, which is a brilliant document, it was so effective that the US government, the federal prosecutors in this case, scrambled to put together a 32-page response, which you should also read. It's incredibly revealing. The party strategy, the chairman's leadership, and the motion for dismissal backed the US government into a corner and left them no option but to completely show their hand. And they are 100% exposed. It's the document that the US government responded with is a pure declaration of repression. It's a complete, yes, we're taking away freedom of speech. Yes, you're right. That's what we're doing. And we're allowed to. We did it before. Remember McCarthy era? Remember the concentration camp law? Remember the Espionage Act? Remember throwing people in prison for making speeches because we called it material support of terrorism? That was basically the US government's response. They had this two-pronged thing where they said, on the one hand, this has nothing to do with free speech because it's content neutral. It's not about what you're saying, it's about the fact that the Russians told you to say it, which, as the chairman has said, if the party was accused of saying Mary had a little lamb on behalf of the Russians, there would be no such indictment. So they start off with that argument, but then they turn around and say, but even if it was about what they were saying, that would be okay. Even if it was a violation of the First Amendment, that would be okay because their conduct represents a threat to national security. In fact, it strikes to the heart of the national security interests of the United States, which sounds like the COINTELPRO document that said that the Black Panther Party represented the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States since the Civil War. So the lawyers responded, Attorney Goodman responded with another very brilliant response, which was 8 pages, which is the limit that you're given in that reply. And this strategy was so powerful and so effective that this judge in Tampa, who easily could have said, nope, I'm rejecting this motion for dismissal, we're going to trial, took the motion for dismissal seriously enough to do what we wanted, which is to call for a hearing. Yeah. And the last document that we filed, the last document that was filed by Attorney Goodman, the lawyer for the Uhuru 3, it literally ended with saying, in conclusion, we want a hearing. Yeah. And that's what we got. So that's basically what I wanted to say. I just want to again salute the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and building the anti-colonial free speech movement, and close by saying that, you know, there's this thing that we hear sometimes, especially white leftists say, like, actually this goes back a long time, the whole thing, like first they came for the Jews and I was not a Jew and all that, and of course, you know, first they came for African people, that never gets mentioned. But you hear this thing like people say, we have to support the Uhuru movement because if they come for them, it could be us next. And I really appreciated the way the chairman turned that on its head when he said, no, if they come for the Uhuru movement, they will come for you next. Yeah. The reason they're coming for the Uhuru movement and the chairman is because the chairman, the Uhuru movement, the African liberation movement is the vanguard out front, the thing that stands between the raw repression of the colonial state and the masses of the people. They have to go through the chairman to get to everybody else. So white people have every interest in standing 100% behind Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the Uhuru movement, and demanding drop the charges against the Uhuru 3, and coming out in droves on November 4th to Washington, D.C. to participate in solidarity with the Black People's March on the White House.
Thank you. I just want to say that in relationship to that, I've forgotten exactly, this person I think is a congressperson. I think this person is one of the ones who's defending Trump. Jim Jordan, who heads up, he heads this committee, does he? Yes. The weaponization FBI committee. And it's interesting because what he has done is take almost verbatim, and you can see a copy of this, a part of the presentation that came from our lawyer about free speech. He just picked it up, cut and pasted it, and put it out, you know, as part of the argument that's being used to defend Donald Trump. Around the free speech question and the basic arguments that came from our attorney Goodman. I also want to say that I think it's important to recognize that those are some of the lawyers, Goodman and Griffin and Akbar. By the way, we'll talk to the Akbar, but there's some people in this room, especially Africans, who may have some familiarity with the nationalist movement. Akbar's father was Naeem Akbar, is Naeem Akbar, who is a kind of a figure in the cultural nationalist movement, who is a psychologist and has done a lot of work around the psychology and psychological attacks on African people. And we should mention that lawyers that we have, like Colin Poro, who is working around he's the National Lawyers Guild, and he's working pushing Freedom of Information Act. We want them to give us information. They say something about the Russians. Let's say, how can you explain what you was doing to us in the 60s? How can you explain how you've been dealing with us all these other years? So we want Freedom of Information Act. We want to see when you were doing this, how long you've been doing this, the basis for doing this. Up to now, they refuse to give us any of that information. So that's part of the struggle. And so there are lawyers who are working with this, and Colin Poro from the National Lawyers Guild is one of those who's doing that. I think another thing that we want to point out is that in the 1960s, when this assault was made on the African liberation movement. And going all the way back actually to the first part of the 20th century, when you talk about even the Espionage Act and all this stuff and its connection to the struggle against colonized people, because the Russians didn't just distinguish themselves as fighting for a Russian revolution out of some abstract Russian, genetic, predisposition or something like that. What was happening is that the Russian Revolution happened in 1917, but the thing that happened in 1914 was the First Imperialist World War. That Imperialist World War was just like the Second Imperialist World War, just like 1984 and 85. Those wars were fought to redivide the world. They call it the World War, fight for democracy and all this stuff, but this was the fight over who was going to have what part of Africa and other colonial territories around the world. It was like the mafia didn't like the deal the way it came out the last time, so they initiated wars to redivide the world. And the thing that distinguished, and so all of them were fighting around this question. This is what the issue was. The colonial redivision of the world. And the thing that made the Russians stand out was that prior to this war, and this is a war that everybody who was a so-called communist or socialist in Europe, they could see this thing brewing, it was coming. And so Lenin, Lenin, who was the leader of the Bolshevik party movement in Russia, had put forth to all of the European communists that they would not participate. None of the communists were supposed to participate in that war. They said that we can't use this bogus thing about defending the fatherland, because all we're doing is actually creating people who will fight and die in defense of imperialism. That's what he said. So the Russians didn't participate because of Lenin in that struggle. This is the thing that distinguished Russia from the rest of the colonial powers that existed at that time. And what that meant, objectively speaking, in not participating with that, Russia objectively found itself uniting with the struggles of colonizing African people all around the world who was fighting against colonialism. The colonialism that the war was designed to protect in terms of defending, and redividing the world. The colonial struggle, and this is something that must be understood. We're talking about this war in 1914, but look at the so-called Red Summer and the association in Red Summer, because the bloody attacks that were being made against African people around this country. You're looking at 21. What was that? Tulsa, Oklahoma. Look at what happened in right over in East St. Louis and what happened. All these murders of Black people happen. These are colonized people to whom this stuff is happening in this country. And the anti-colonial resistance was happening all around the world. And so this was the context within which all of this must be understood. When Russia and Lenin, their significance was that they broke with the rest of the European colonizers in this fight to redivide the world, and the rest of the colonizers were fighting over who was going to get what part of Africa. This is the thing that sparked the statement from Marcus Garvey when they were in the League of Nations, which was the precursor of the United Nations, and they were sitting around talking about who was going to get Southwest Africa and this and that, and Garvey's response was what? Africa for Africans. Where? At home, in Africa, and abroad. So this was the time of that struggle. You must understand that, because we have this whole Eurocentric colonial definition of that period in that world, and how the Bolsheviks and the Russians, somehow they make it almost mysterious, and this sort of heroic thing that happened that was independent and separate from the struggle that Africans and other colonized people were making. Russia didn't put us in the history. We put Russia in the history with the colonial struggles did that. So I think that's really important for us to understand. It's really, really important. The whole thing about agency and African people having agency we're not just flotsam. We're not just this inert material to be molded and shaped and pushed around by these historical forces that we have nothing to do with it. That we are just there to be somehow have their will applied to us. We have agency, and we were struggling for our own freedom, our own liberation is what gave the basis and the context for even the Russian Revolution that I uphold. As you can tell, am I wearing something that signifies Russian Revolution? Yeah. So that I uphold, right? So, but that's important to understand. So the other thing I think is really important for us to talk about in terms of this attack on the Uhuru movement. We say they picked up a big rock and dropped it on their feet. They expected to be able to use the Russian boogeyman. They did it in the 60s. In the 60s, most of you are too young to remember how growing up in the 50s, when they were actually teaching people the bombs might be dropped by the Russians, the atomic bomb, how to get under your desk and hide and stuff like that in the case of an atomic bomb. The Russians had beat the United States into space with Sputnik and whatever. This was a really morale-shattering kind of event, for white people, and especially in this country. And so the Russians were the big boogeyman. Anybody here see the movie? What do they call it? Where you have these pods that come from outer space and the body snatchers. Anybody see the movie called The Body Snatchers? Where when the people go to sleep, these pods, they would take over and you would lose your features, and the pod would assume your features. This was part of a whole anti-Russian kind of thing, that there's these Russians there. And if you're not alert and keep up with what the Russian communists are doing, then they take over you. And so this entity that becomes captured by the pod, the body that's been snatched now, it has no emotions. It's just automaton in terms of how it moves, etc. And you just take it over. Well, that's how they were picturing communists, who were materialists, who did not, the assumption that you're not organized on emotions and all that other kind of stuff. Their emotion. Not only that, but they know what you're saying. All of them got the same line, got the same position. They made this signal. Everybody does the same thing. What in the hell is that? So that's the thing that's frightening, and that's the Russians again. Being reflected in the popular culture in this country, which one of the reasons I think everybody here should look at they call Tyrone. That's another interesting thing. So you have this phenomenon. The Russian is the boogeyman, and then on top of that, the boogeyman is black people, right? And that's the historical boogeyman. So even the white communists, even the white left, even the white revolution scared of black people. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. You're talking about the black people coming to power. Hell, your local communist organizations as fighting as that as these white people out there. This whole notion of black people taking power is a frightening thing. So this was the specter that they used to be able to attack the Black Panther Party in the revolution in the 1960s. So that's the same thing they used. Terrorize the people with the Russian thing. Russia. Terrorize the people with these black nationalists, who are out there plotting to do all of this stuff, etc. And then be able to use these charges and having won the sympathy and the solidarity and the unity with the whole white population to do this stuff. But they can't do what they did in the 60s now. No. Which is exactly why, unlike what they did to Fred Hampton. Remember they murdered Fred Hampton? What white groups and people did you say to see storming anything when they murdered Fred? When they murdered Malcolm X, how many white folk groups did you see come out and protest around that? They didn't. Because they were able to isolate our movement, isolate our revolution. They can kill Fred, they can kill Malcolm, except they even killed King. And the thing that the uprising around King came mostly from African people all around this country and much of the world, many of whom rose up and actually engaged in actual armed struggles, etc. So they can't do that now. Which is why on July 29th, they didn't just, they attacked the African community. You understand what I'm saying? They attacked the African community. They cordoned it off. They put tape over the doorbell videos of the person who lived right next to me on Redbud here in St. Louis, so that nobody could see what it was they were doing. They put tapes to keep the community from being able to come out. In St. Petersburg, Florida, and St. Louis, when they attacked our communities, I was there. I asked the people next door in St. Louis, hey, did y'all get it, the video? They said, video hell. They said when they thought they was coming for them. You understand? And the same thing in St. Pete. I was talking to people in St. Pete. No, we didn't get the video. One young brother said to me, said when it happened, I went and told my dad, I think I'm going to prison. Because he thought that last joint he smoked 2 weeks ago, and they had found out about it. But the point is that the state has such an ubiquitous presence in our community all the time. This is stuff that's happening with us. So this was how this struggle that was made against us. So we pulled together this conference. We have this extraordinary hands-off Uhuru campaign. We've just talked about this remarkable leader, Comrade Mwezi, who has been over this for the longest period of time. Went to Cuba. One people in Cuba who didn't even understand Uhuru, who didn't even understand the fact that we all Africans, no matter what language you speak. Pull them all together. They said, teach us more, teach us more. That's what they told Mwezi, who took this to them. And they were able to talk about hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. And that's why, and when this thing happened in Nigeria, that we just saw, we have somebody here from Nigeria on the webinar that we just did recently. We talking about in Nigeria, Uhuru going to Nigeria. That's what they're saying. We need Uhuru in Nigeria as well. So the thing is, they attacked us to try to kill us, to isolate us, destroy our movement, destroy our ability to struggle. They picked up a big old rock and they dropped it on their own feet. People never heard of the Uhuru movement. You know, Zuckerberg got us in Facebook jail. We can't get out of this banning thing that they got on us, and now everybody around the world knows Uhuru. Except we resurrected as a consequence of this whole thing. What do you call it when the explosion happens inside? What do you call that? Implosion is happening, you know, the whole social system. So that was a really critical thing that I think we should understand. Then beyond that, and they can't do it. And here's what we've got. We've got a situation where there are in 140 some odd cities, there are white people in more than 140 cities working under the leadership of the Uhuru movement, taking the reparations, genocide issue out in the white communities, etc. This ain't the 1960s. This ain't the 1960s. You understand? So that's part of what it is that we're looking at. This is part of the strategic success of a revolutionary movement that has put the conquest of political power, the liberation of African people back in our own hands, and this is how we do it. So inside the white community, in white communities, in white families, all the people, all the Negroes, y'all messing with them white people, y'all trust them white people. We ain't moving, no revolutionary movement based on trust. We got a theory. We got a strategy to win. We don't trust you, Negro. We don't have a relationship with you based on trust. We have a relationship with you based on our theory and our understanding of the objective interest that you have in overturning the social system and giving an opportunity, objective interest that most of the white people have in destroying the same system that's responsible for their exploitation as well. Ain't that right? So that's what we're talking about. And you have to be involved when you struggle with it. Sometimes, you know, I love Africa. And I love Africans. And we say everybody's an African, but they don't say everybody, all Africans smart. Right? So some Africans come with some pretty stupid, you know, kinds of things, but I still love them. Anybody, what's his name? Can't think of Fontaine. You not seen Fontaine? That's nice. Current president, my smell. You seen Fontaine? Yeah. Tyrone, was it you, Tyrone? And so what we've done is over this whole period of time. We're talking about really grinding, really grinding. It has been relentless. And 2 or 3 people quit. They'll come back because all roads lead to Uhuru. All roads lead to Uhuru. That's why they tired. No kidding. They tired. No, we will work the oppressors, we will work their asses off. They're gonna have to work like hell in order to accomplish what it is that they came for. This ain't good. I don't know what you think you're dealing with, we tired. So we built this much larger movement. And on July 8th, I think it was, we had a conference through the Hands Off Uhuru Committee. And I think there were something like 50 some odd people and organizations, mostly organizations, and some people came together and united around some basic demands. On top of the demands, of course, hands off, drop the charges, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, and there are various other demands around free speech for all of the people, free speech that will liberate the Tampa five people, students in Tampa, Florida, who they want to lock up because they defy going against the kind of stuff that the governor in Florida is imposing on education for Black people there. They're talking about this Cop City thing, where there's 61 indictments, if I'm not mistaken, over the last several days, because these are people who are opposed to them taking this relatively pristine area, forest, etc., turning it into this whole camp for creating, police training and police. What do you call it? Almost like a kind of training ground. But yeah. So 6 some indictments happened there to people who have just been a part of the Hands Off Cuba network. All of these people getting busted and challenged. We got people the United States kidnapped and a diplomat from Venezuela. And got him in prison. They kidnapped him. You understand? I'm saying they kidnapped the man. And the only reason they got him is because the Venezuelans don't have the power to come and snatch him up. So they did that. We built this whole movement that involves so many different people, so many different issues, so many different groups. We got people who somebody said to us, this white left group said, we don't want to have anything to do with you because you're working with this group and this group is a right wing, etc. And then so that we shouldn't have anything. What the hell are you talking about? What is a right wing? What the hell are you talking about? The colonizers got right wing, left wing, middle wings, up, down. We against colonialism. And whether your question is not your struggle with them in terms of what wing they're on, is your unity with the struggle of Black people in these colonial terrorists. That's what our requirement is of you. I don't give a damn if you don't like Trots, if you don't like Stalinists, if you don't like this or that, etc. The question is that we are struggling with you around is not your disagreement with some other white left group, but whether you agree with the right of African people to advocate and organize for the total, absolute, unquestioned liberation of African and unification of Africa and African people. Do you do that? Yeah. That's the question. That's the question. And so the first time in history you've never seen before, I fought this for, I can't tell you, 40 years or more, since Vietnam War, to try to win every question, the so-called anti-war movement, peace movement. Where are the Black guys? The Black guys are fighting a goddamn war that you haven't recognized yet. You understand? If we can ever come out from this one, we may be able to join you in that one. Yeah. But if you want to end that one, then join us in this one. I guarantee you, the one you're fighting in Vietnam, we can settle the Vietnamese war right here in St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah. We can settle the Vietnam War. We can settle all of that stuff right here, but you won't do it. Because they scared of the Black Revolution too. Yeah. You understand? So that's where we're going. So now, finally, we got all these forces together. Tide is turning. The 50, 60 years of work, ideological work, political work that we've done, the various manifestations, iterations of this movement for freedom for Black people, the way it is intruding on the spaces, the contradiction that exists in the whole world order, the contradiction that exists inside this country, all of this stuff coming together now. And so we say it is the anti-colonial movement that has to be the one that leads this struggle. We say that this movement that we have for peace, this movement that we're making, this mass movement is an anti-colonial free speech movement. An anti-colonial free speech movement. And we've been invited to and participated in different programs, and we appreciate the fact they support us. They say they are for us, and we go and we speak to their events. Of course, they have their own reasons for having their events, just like we do. And when we make our presentations, Malik was one in New York not too long ago, and they come behind us and say, well, you know, the real question is the class question. Yeah, this is the class question, but you don't understand the class question. Because the class issue is concentrated where? In the colonial question. When you want to end this class oppression and exploitation that you're talking about, jump on board. And that's where the Rodney Takum took to them in New York. That's the position. And anybody can see that. And so that's the thing that we now driving November 4th. This whole coalition now, anti-colonial free speech, mobilization, cross the political spectrum, cross the ideological spectrum. And we've reinvigorated for the first time in I don't know how many years, an actual anti-colonial, a multinational anti-colonial project. And I say multinational, anti-colonial multinational, I'm talking about Filipinos, Mexicans, Africans, people who call themselves Puerto Ricans, various other indigenous people. Then we talk about how we're going to be coming, you know, like on buses, and we're going to be coming like in airplanes, going to Washington, D.C. November 4th. We come on, the indigenous people coming on horseback. I mean, the people talking about freeing Peltier, they say, can we bring horses? Yeah, bring horses, bring the whole goddamn everything that can be brought. Bring the horses too. We having a massive turnout here, and this is the first time anything like this has ever happened in this country. They picked up a big rock. They picked up a big rock. So, and then we have a list of demands, and one of the most critical demands that we put forth, and we got all of them to unite with this demand. Because first of all, we were saying, you know, we have to get opposed to Ukraine, what y'all doing in Ukraine. And Zaki Baruti was one that said, yeah, you got to say something about Ukraine in this demands that we have. And so we had somebody who was being very careful because they part of this anti-war coalition stuff. People were saying, well, there are different positions on Ukraine. Some of them can't say that that this is an attack on Russia going through Ukraine. But all of them don't want to. All of them want to see the war stopped. They want to see the bloodshed, this kind of stuff. But say, okay, you don't have to take a particular position on who's right and who's wrong. You want the blood stopped. We say our position is in the demands. Well, you can't believe it. What we've said is the demand has to be stop the money that's going to Ukraine and give it to Black people for reparations. And so they signed on to that. And that's different from that lame kind of stuff that we used to hear from the so-called anti-war movement that somehow use the money for not for war, but for education and for this. When in the hell did you get education before the war? You wouldn't get an education. Why the hell do you think you would get it after the war? No, what we want you to do is unite with Black people. You talk about you're opposed to what's happening in Ukraine. You just want to see the war stop, the bloodshed stop. We want the bloodshed to stop too. And so without even casting blame on anybody, what you say is U.S. monies, instead of going to Ukraine for war, for carnage, that money should go to African people for reparations. That's a magnificent trajectory. That's a powerful trajectory. So, and then finally, the Biden and the Democratic Party. This is an election coming up. And let me tell you that 2024 election is playing a role in all of this stuff, these charges and everything.
Yeah.
You know, Sleepy Joe is trying to show he is not sleepy at all. He's a real tough guy. Nobody's got any sandbags on the damn platform on the stage. Joe Biden can make it happen. He wants to show everybody that. So here you got the Democratic Party who consistently attack black people. And black people never turn their backs on the Democratic Party because not that the Democratic Party ever promises us anything, including that Negro, that left-handed jump shot, dribbling Al Green, imitating Negro called Barack Obama. They never promised us nothing. You never got even a promise from the Democratic Party. You can't say the Democratic Party lied to you. They never said they was going to give you nothing. The only thing the Democratic Party did was make you scared of the Republicans. You scared of Trump, so you vote for the Democrats. Not because they got a problem for you, because it's not Trump. And there was no assumption that we had any alternative but the Democratic Party. Yeah. But we've been in this massive movement, November 4th. It's really important. That's got demands. We're talking about the National Black Political Agenda for Self-Determination demands. And so the Democratic Party is not going to put the demands that requires them to turn loose our children out of these prisons that they call these concentration camps, these CPS, they steal our babies. You ain't gonna find that on Joe Biden's platform or no Democratic Party platform. So that they won't put that on their platform, it's on our platform. And we're gonna make them have to deal with our platform. And that's what we're taking to Washington, D.C. on November 4th. We're going strong, and we are saying that Black power will prevail. The colonial movement has reemerged finally. They picked up a big rock. All power to the people.
That's our Uhuru 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uhuru! Woo, it's been a full day and I got a platter full. I'm telling you.
But the Democratic Party is in big time trouble.
Yeah.
All the polling shows that more and more, especially young African people, are not interested in them. They're scared to death. Even Cornel West now announcing his candidacy, that's got them shaking in their boots because the difference in terms of the percentage that they need in order to take this election is going to be so close that they got a problem. We are saying to them that you can't take black people for granted. That if you want black people to support you, you're gonna have to call off the dogs. Yeah. Call off the dogs. You understand that you're not gonna be able to use the dogs against us, etc. You gotta adopt the People's Program. We bring it to you November 4th. Yeah.
We're gonna get on the bus.
Get on the bus.
Get on the bus.
Get on the bus.
Okay, comrades. Do we have any discussion for this panel? Yeah, 1 minute. So if you got a discussion, 1 minute. Come on.
Chairman?
No, I'm just.
Oh.
Well, you.
Hands on Uhuru.
Hands on Africa. Uhuru.
You know, some of y'all not gonna sleep well tonight. Cause you're gonna be walking and figuring out how am I gonna get this money.
Yes.
To get to November 4th in DC and get into this fight.
Yeah. Yes.
But you know what? You'll have it figured out. I bet you will. Because this means freedom not only for you, but for your generations beyond. Great-grandchildren, okay? This is a time when the tide is coming in, and when it wash away, the Uhuru movement gonna be riding high.
Right.
Yeah. And with that said, comrades, I want to say thank you for coming today. Okay. Well, thank you for coming today, but let me call comrade President Masamela over.
said they couldn't find the ticket. And then they said we can get on try to get here tomorrow. So.
I think the people should know.
Yeah, so I'm doing. All right, everybody. So just one of the things that they talked about, I think they talked about it, was the fact that with the Regions Bank campaign earlier this spring, I remember, man, we were driving through Southern California traffic to get from from San Diego to LAX, so that Moisey could get to Birmingham, Alabama. And I mean, this is a fight. Like, LAX is such an airport where it's easy to get, it takes more time to get from the beginning of LAX to your gate than it takes to get from Orange County to LAX. I mean, this is a fight. Well, and we did that. We got Moisey there. We got Chairman Moisey there. Chairman Moisey gets there. They hold Moisey at the gate until the plane is left to tell, and then make her walk all the way to another part of the airport. LAX, big as a city, big as a small city, especially big as some of these cities over here in St. Louis County that they use to make sure Africans don't have no political power. But they make her walk all the way back, and then they say, oh, well, here's the issue, but your plane's gone, and we can get you there tomorrow after the event that we know you're going there to organize is over. So those, you know, that's the tricks. That's the tricks. They know they can't come one way, so they come another way. As many of you all know, some of y'all might be here for that. Fred Hampton Jr., a founding member of the National People's Democratic Uhuru movement, was scheduled to come to San Diego. He's going to be part of our panel discussion this evening as we looked at the 50th anniversary documentary. And he, same thing, he got to the airport in Chicago and they held him until the plane was gone. They said they couldn't find the flight. And then after the flight was gone, they told him they found his name on the flight. And, but they can get him here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Because of course they've got Eventbrite, they've got Facebook, they're registered, they're watching right now. And they wanted to make sure he wasn't able to get here. So for that reason, we wanted to bring that to you all, make sure you all understand the political reasons for some of the schedule changes this evening. This evening we were scheduled to have a panel discussion with Fred about as a part of his history with Deepening. We're going to watch the 50th anniversary documentary of the Uhuru movement of the African People's Socialist Party, published in 2022. That's going to be postponed. We will issue the awards tomorrow morning as a part of tomorrow's schedule. So the branch awards and the Comrade of the Year, things like that, will resume tomorrow as a part of tomorrow's schedule. The viewing tonight has been postponed, so we're just going to postpone it, but it'll be for another event. Hopefully we more likely bring them down here for a Sunday rally or something to that extent. However, wanted to bring that to you all. You know, that might be something you all want to, you know, speak on right now. There's kids in the room, so you know, but yeah. So wanted to bring that to the people because that's important to understand the language the state works. So, but just to say that we're not going to have the evening session that was scheduled at 7 o'clock this evening, but we will resume tomorrow morning. Doors open at 8. And day 2 of the convention begins at 9. We'll begin with the Deepening report, and then Occupy Design report, and then we'll move through the schedule. So the adjusted schedule will be posted online and emailed out to you all, so you all can understand tomorrow's schedule. I really want to salute everyone for your dynamic day. I'm not looking at the numbers exactly right now, but we've raised almost $7,000 towards our $10,000 goal. And that's the power that they don't want to see. That's the power that they don't want to see. So it's important for us to keep struggling, keep fighting. I want to salute the comrades that came from afar, comrades that came from near, that are in the room right now. I want to salute Comrade Jerome. Comrade Jerome, can you show me? I want to show everybody that flyer you created, because this is what we're talking about right now. Comrade Jerome is a African who's dedicated his entire life. Yeah, come on up. Comrade Jerome has dedicated his entire life to fight for the democratic rights of the African community. After he heard the attacks last year, Comrade Jerome created this himself. African Liberation Movement, one nation, one union, from colonialism to capitalism to imperialism. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, Omali Yeshitela, red, black, and green, the African continent with the fist in it. This Comrade Jerome did this on his own. You know what I'm saying? So this is African workers, the African working class coming into political life. Comrade Jerome, one of the newest members of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. So let's give a shout out. So that's what this is about. That's what this is about. So I want to, like I said, just welcome you all. I mean, thank you all for coming. I will see you all tomorrow evening. Sorry.
Man, let's blame too.
I know, seriously, man. No. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. All right, see y'all in the morning. One nation. One nation. One